The sands of the Treasure Coast will soon be a memory for the Mets as they break camp today and leave Port St. Lucie. But first, there's this little matter of taking on their crosstown rivals for a couple of games, one on either coast of Florida, before the Mets and the Yankees both get ready for opening day. At Digital Domain Park in Port St. Lucie, Florida, the New York Mets play the New York Yankees. Mets spring training on SNY is presented by Citi. And a pleasant good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Port St. Lucie. Gary Cohen, Ron Darling, Keith Hernandez with you today as the Mets play their final game in Port St. Lucie this spring, and for the first time since 1995, they'll be welcoming the Yankees to Port St. Lucie. The Mets then go to Tampa to play tomorrow before opening the season on Thursday. And spring training is so long, and now finally the Mets will be breaking camp today. They've got the bags packed, they're heading on the bus. It's got to be an awfully good feeling.
Well, you know, spring training always kind of starts dragging around the 15th game, or 12th to 15th game in spring training. The games are needed for the starting pitchers because they can only go once every fifth day. Been a lot of injuries here in this season. It hasn't been a good spring training for the Mets, but it's always positive going forward. And it's very hot here today. It's been scorching hot the last couple of days. It's going to be in the 90s. You look forward to getting up north, starting the season where it counts, getting into that cooler weather, and you have the butterflies, and it's another season.
And after a spring training that's been filled with a number of small hurts, it appears as though the Mets are going to arrive at opening day intact. In particular, Andres Torres and Tim Burdick both going to play today.
I think that's the most important. Torres, of course, they need that good center fielder to go get him, and also he's their big cog because he's the leadoff hitter. And then you think of Burdick. He appeared in 72 games last year. Probably was their best reliever over the course of the season. And finally, Francisco had an MRI. It revealed nothing. He's going to be fine. Has a little bulky knee, but he's ready to go.
Francisco had a bullpen session today, said the knee is okay. And
Baseball on SNY is brought to you by Citi, by Budweiser, by Toyota. When you choose Toyota, you get a lot for less. Toyota. by WB Mason for amazingly low prices on office supplies. Who but WB Mason? And by Subway. Fuel at Subway today. Grab the new eggplant parmesan for a limited time only at participating Subway restaurants. Follow the Mets with MLB.com at Bat12 for your iPhone, iPad, and Android. Get spring training scores, stats, highlights, live audio, and more. Text at BAT to 31826 or visit Mets.com for details. Checking in around the majors, presented by Citi. Baldo Jimenez drilling his former teammate Troy Tulowitzki. That gets him a 5-game suspension. And big contracts. Joey Votto, 10 years, $225 million from the Reds. Matt Cain, highest paid right-handed pitcher of all time. 5 years, $112 million extension with the Giants. Jeez. Lots of money to go around. Mike Pelfrey trying to back up his last start with his final tune-up before opening day. Mets are in the swim when we come back. Check out the Toyota starting lineup for the Yankees this afternoon. The Yankees sent most of their team home to Tampa after they played in Miami last night, and only 2 starters in the lineup. The 2 guys at the top, Gardner and Swisher, and then it's a bunch of subs and minor leaguers after that. Mike Pelfrey making his final start of the spring, hoping to pitch as well as he did his last time out.
Well, just coming off a fantastic start, 6 1/3 innings, 1 run. Wants to build on that this afternoon.
We'll take a look at the Lexus Metropolitan defense, and you see Murphy, new position, has made 3 errors over spring training. Hairston, I think the big stories there are Hairston, Tejada. They're in the lineup. They've had injury problems during spring. And there's Joe Girardi, manager of the Metropolitan Yankees.
That'll get you in trouble.
Hey, so other than other than Pelfrey, this is the starting lineup, right? Opening day.
Well, the good thing for the Mets, obviously, is that Andres Torres is well enough to go out there today. There had been a lot of speculation about the condition of his calf, and the feeling was that the Mets would not risk playing him in a major league exhibition game. Same with Tim Burdack, just in case they needed to DL them before opening day, because that way they could backdate them. The fact that Torres is playing today, the fact that Burdack is scheduled to pitch today, both are indications that they will be on the opening day roster, because if they had any doubts, they would have kept them on the minor league side.
Absolutely. And we've talked about their depth, so getting all their players back before they go north, of course, great sign for the Mets.
Brett Gardner will lead things off for the Yankees. Gardner normally the number 9 hitter for the Yankees, but there's a lot of conversation in around Yankee circles as to when it is that the Yankees will make the move and finally put Gardner in that leadoff spot.
Well, the tremendous speed, one of the fastest players in the game, a real adept at bunting both ways to the third baseman and also carrying it with him to first.
Goes bunt first pitch, takes ball 1, and we're underway. Gardner led the American League in stolen bases last year with 49.
Now, I'm sorry, Gary, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think he's got to be the leadoff guy. Jeter hitting in the 2-hole. Jeter goes naturally to right field, a great hit and run guy. They could add, some more hits out of Jeter, and I just think with Gardner's speed, he's got to be the leadoff guy.
And yet, you look at the second half Jeter had last year. He was rejuvenated, and he's also
30, right, in the second half.
Had a tremendous spring as well. And Pelfrey misses the one. It's 2-1.
Jeter hurt his calf last year, was on the DL, and he was struggling up to that point, came back, and he hit .330 after that point. Wow.
And he's had some problems with that calf this spring. He's a little bit of tenderness.
The other calf.
Yeah. The other, right. So, you know what? It's the overloading. You unconsciously favor the one side that's hurt, and you overload the other side, and boom, what happens?
But I think that's also the cautionary note about the Yankees. I mean, we've talked a lot about the Phillies this spring and the amount of age that they're carrying and how it's starting to catch up with them a little bit with Utley's injury issues and Howard's. And, when you have Jeter, who's going to be 37 this year, and A-Rod is going to be 38 on the left side of the infield, there has to be a concern. Torres eases over and catches Gardner's fly ball for the first out of the game.
Of course, the advantage in the American League is that you can give your guys a day at least off rest by putting them in the DH spot.
And their usual DH is going to be a guy who's even older. Raul Ibanez is going to play there most days. Well, here's the DH today, Nick Swisher, normally the right fielder for the Yankees. Swisher, 260 last year, 23 home runs. Struggled in the postseason, as did many of the Yankees in their game against their series against the Tigers, which they lost in 5 games. And the curveball from Pelfrey, and he did that a lot against the Astros the other day, throwing first pitch curve.
He's just really doing a nice job of mixing up his pitches, but even more importantly, staying down in the strike zone with that sinker, like that.
There it is, right at the knees for a strike, and it's 0-2. Well, the signs are certainly positive for Pelfrey. 2 starts back, they tweaked his delivery a little bit, moved him a little further over toward first base. They have him bringing his hands over his head now in the windup, and it seems to have paid some dividends.
He's pitching, as they say, tall. He's pitching his full 6'7", getting that angle on the baseball and just getting that ball down on the knees. It's the extreme right side of that pitching rubber.
And that makes sense, right, for a sinker ball pitcher if you're trying to hit that outside corner to the left-hand batter.
And plus, his strength, not only that, but if you draw a straight line inside to the lefty, too, is a place that's not his strength, so that helps.
2-2 to Swisher, and he fouls out the fastball.
Swisher's in fantastic shape, isn't he?
He missed about 2 weeks, Swisher did, with a groin injury. Just came back the other day and had a couple of hits his first game back in the lineup.
I think this is his free agent year, I'm guessing.
Do you think there's a relationship?
Are you saying salary drive?
Bounce to the right side. Daniel Murphy gives ground. That's the second out. By the way, speaking of being in the best shape of your career, which a lot of guys are in spring training, I have to send out kudos to my opposite number, Michael Kay, who I saw for the first time this spring. He dropped about 45 pounds. He looks fantastic.
He looks fantastic. You're right. Married life is suiting him well, right?
Maybe the wife laid down the law.
Well, that happens in my house. I don't know about your house.
Here's Eric Chavez, who's playing first base. The former star third baseman with the Oakland Athletics, now a part-time player with the Yankees, had 160 at-bats last year, hit .263 with only 2 home runs. So he's a very different kind of player now than he was during his heyday. Had a lot of back problems along the way.
Well, I think one of the things that people always mention when a team is able to spend a lot of money on their roster is I think they always concentrate on the starters. They forget that when you can have a bench that has Chavez, that has Andrew Jones, that's a real strength.
Chavez playing first base today, and he fouls it away.
He had a stretch where he was the best third baseman in the game.
Well, he hit his 25 home runs every year, driving his 100 runs, and he was an outstanding fielder.
Catch everything.
But sometimes when you throw your body around a lot at third base, like Scott Rowland,
yeah,
it starts to catch up with
you. You can't back it, but when you think of a guy you mentioned before, Chase Utley, and the way he's always played the game for a guy who doesn't have a real thick kind of strong body.
Swing and a miss, and Pelfrey takes care of Chavez. So a strong start for Mike. Gets the Yankees out 1-2-3. Mets come to bat when we come back. Andres Torres gets his first at bat in a big league exhibition game since the 20th of March, and he takes high from Ivan Nova.
Ivan Nova last year, 16 wins, good sinker ball, good overhand curveball, good change, has it all.
And Torres leads off with a base hit. So Andres Torres, who got a plethora of at-bats in minor league games over the last few days, pulls one into right field, and the Mets have the first base runner of the game. Check out the Geico Mets starting lineup, and pretty much the opening day lineup plus a DH. With Hairston shoehorned in there in the 7-hole. Daniel Murphy, Lucas Duda having excellent springs for the Mets. And Murphy will step in. The caveat on Murph, he's got 18 hits, all singles. So it's not like he's driving the ball this spring, but hitting over 300, getting on base regularly, and trying to figure out the ins and outs of playing second base.
Well, I think the extra base hits will come. You know, spring training, you're finding yourself. He's got to be able to feel happy that he's hitting 305 this spring. It's been a good spring for him. There's his numbers from last year.
28 doubles, 2 triples, 6 home runs last season in under 400 at bats. Little chopper, very tough play for Bernier, the third baseman, and no chance to get Murphy, who's got himself another single. And the Mets have the first 2 men on.
Well, you'll take these anytime you can get them. In spring training, you rather hit the ball hard, but got a little top that one down the line. Couldn't have bunted it more perfectly.
It was interesting how that hit in front of the plate. Took a direct left turn.
So 2 aboard for David Wright. David's had just 14 at bats this spring, sitting out with the torn abdominal.
Yeah, 2 hits, the 1 grand slam, 5 RBI. And he needs at bats, Gary. He needs to get into the groove, trying to cram everything as much as he can with the limited amount of time before opening day.
Well, he's likely to play the full game today, and the Mets are taking their entire team to Tampa tomorrow for their final exhibition game, so the starters are likely to get at least a few at bats. And Wright hits one over the bag for a base hit. That'll chase Torres home with the game's first run. Murphy goes first to third. 3 straight hits to start the opening inning, and the Mets have a 1-0 lead.
Well, the one thing I've seen from David thus far is that he's working the other way. And when he's just set up that way. You see where he's off his back foot, and his whole intent was to go to the opposite field. And that's a good sign. And I think with the fences coming in this year, no longer the mow zone. It's been cut at the waist. It's going to bring that fence in a little bit closer. I think it's a good approach for David right now. He's always been good going that way.
So the Mets have put together 3 straight hits to produce a run. Now Ike Davis, who has a couple of home runs this spring, 8 runs batted in. And he takes the curveball from Nova for a strike.
Pretty good one right there.
Ike hitting just 208 this spring, but he has looked good. I don't think you worry about his back
healthy
this season. Yep.
One little Achilles heel for Nova is he doesn't hold runners on very well. David, if he wanted to, could take advantage of that.
Doesn't have a very big lead. Broken bat fly ball into center. That should get Murphy home. Dwayne Wise drifting over to grab it. Murphy comes in to score. Sacrifice fly for Ike Davis, and it's 2-0 Mets.
Take a look at the City Yankee defense. So, Andrew Jones, usually see him in center field, but he's in right today. All those great years with the Braves, 10 Gold Gloves. What more can you say?
How many did you have, Keith?
11.
Beautiful.
Isn't it funny, though? Andrew won 10 Gold Gloves playing center field. He didn't play a single inning in center field last year.
Wow.
Not an inning. There's Jason Bay taking outside for ball 1.
Now, Granderson is a guy for the Yankees that seems to play every game, every inning.
Why not?
Yeah.
41 home runs last
year. What a year. He could have been MVP.
Yeah, he could have been. And what a solid season. Seemed like it took him a year to get comfortable with that short porch, get acclimated, and take advantage of it.
Jason Bay lines a base hit, and the Mets have their 4th hit of the inning. Wright pulls in at second.
Well, Bay having a tough spring, getting on the interstate. He needs to get going here, and this is a good start for him with 2 games left, and that ball's inner half. We know that Jason likes that ball in. Mr. Rothschild going out.
You know what's interesting? You were just mentioning, you guys, Curtis Granderson. 2 seasons ago, they went to Texas. They took Granderson out of the lineup for 3 days. He just worked with the hitting coach, and he was struggling, as we've just seen Jason Bay get that hit. After that, he just completely took off. So there is hope that, even when you're struggling, that you can come out of it in a big way.
It's very much the same thing that happened with Jeter last year. So there's some miracle cure.
A lot of it is just getting to clear your head.
Getting away from the game, right?
Not having to get up there and you're struggling so badly, and you have 4 at-bats, and it just seems like you're digging your hole deeper. You get away from it, take a deep breath. To me, it was like, you always get an off day with an off day. an off game and then an off day after. So 48 hours you're away, and then you kind of clear your head.
There's Lucas Duda with 2 on and still only 1 out with a couple of runs in against Nova. And he takes the first pitch curve for a strike. Duda, I guess you'd have to say, has been the unofficial MVP of spring training for the Mets. And he's just under 300, 4 home runs.
He's tied with Ike Davis with 9 RBI to lead the team.
And that's up to the moment. You already updated your stats.
You know, hey, we're 48 hours from game time. It's the real deal. I got my scorecard up to snuff.
You got all your colors and everything?
No, I'm not going to do that.
That you're going to save for Thursday.
Everything's expensive. You see the prices on these things? Gosh, oh my! I gotta.
You know, I'll buy you a set of highlighters if you'd like. Oh, Duda hits a shot through the hole. Right being waved around third by Tim Tuffle. The throw for Andrew Jones is going to third. And Bay is a dead duck. He's tagged out for the second out, but Duda has an RBI single. The Mets have a 3-0 lead, and that was a very smart play by Andrew Jones to get the second out.
Well, very unusual. Jason Bay, a very, very good base runner. And there's Duda right there, continues to hit. He's so strong. And you're right, Gary. Jones realizes with Wright's speed, he didn't have a shot. That's a rare base running blunder by Bay. Bay's solid base runner. He kind of assumed here that the throw was going home. And just didn't pick up the throw at all.
Yankees are going to argue that David Wright missed third base, and they're going to appeal over there. And they get no satisfaction.
I guess you have to work on that too.
By the way, seeing Andrew Jones throw out a Met at third base by that kind of margin brings up all sorts of unhappy memories for Met fans who remember the final weekend of the 1998 season where the Mets were battling for a wild card. Basically went to Atlanta needing to win one of the last 3 games to at least force a playoff for the wild card. In the first game of that series, they're down by a run in the 8th inning. Jay Payton, who was just called up as a September call-up, was pinch running at first base. 2 out. Tries to go first to third on a single to center. Andrew throws him out by about 20 feet with Piazza waiting on deck. Inning over. Mets got swept in the series, fell a game short of the wild card.
I know it's 2 outs. What is your role as a runner, Bay, running? Because Tuffle is waving right in. Are you picking up the third base coach or not? That's on your own.
You can make that read on your own. You know, you're getting right around to second base, and you can look over your right shoulder and see where that ball's going. You know, by the time Jones came in, he charged hard. You haven't made your turn at second base yet. So really, it was just an assumption on Bay's part, a wrong assumption.
I think his calculation was that the ball was hit hard enough that Andrew would try and get right at the plate. 2-1 to Scott Hairston, who's DHing today, and that's why. 3-1.
Take another look at it here. You can watch Bay right there. Now let's see. He hasn't even rounded second, so he got confused. I mean, Tough right there is waving right on, and hasn't got a chance to then switch gears and get the back runner, which was Bay, of course. So it's Bay. That's coming back, guys. Right above us.
Where are you going, Gary?
I was bailing. that thing was heading for my eyes. I need those.
I know you do.
That hit right above us, folks. Right above Gary.
There we go. Right there. Wow.
Felt like Tiger Stadium here for a second.
I didn't know which way to move. So I went down. Because that's usually the best option. Duda takes off, and Hairston pops one up foul.
Boy, Nova is really up with his pitches. His fastball's up. That's why he's getting racked.
You remember when we saw Nova, though, last year? He came to Citi Field and pitched that series in early July, and he was very shaky. He gave up a whole bunch of hits, but only allowed 1 run in 5 innings. And, of course, then he got sent down the next day because
Phil Hughes came off the disabled list.
At that point, he'd only won 4 in a row. He wound up winning 12 in a row to finish the season. Right, began the year 4-4, finished 16-4.
I remember Joe Girardi talked to Nova when they had to send him down. And like you said, a guy had won 4 in a row, and he just said, when you go down to AAA, I want you to work on two things. One, work on your breaking ball, throwing it for a strike. And second, give us a reason to never send you back to AAA again. And he did.
Well, and yet he had to fight for his job in the Yankee rotation this spring until Michael Pineda got put on the DL. It was not certain that he'd be in the rotation. Hairston draws the walk, and the inning continues. So a very tough first inning for Nova. 3 runs already in, and now a couple aboard for Josh Torres. Joe Girardi finally announced his pitching rotation last night. CC Sabathia goes opening day against the Rays, and then Kuroda, who came over from the Dodgers, then Hughes, and then Nova and Freddie Garcia. Tolley hitting over 300 on the spring. And Nova misses high.
And missing in that rotation, of course, was the big move they made in the offseason. And Pineda.
You have to figure that Freddie Garcia probably would have been the odd man out if Pineda doesn't get hurt. But then when Pineda comes back, when Andy Pettit's ready to go, we've got a further embarrassment of riches. 2-0 to Tolley.
Pettit hasn't thrown in a game yet, has he?
No. They were talking about the possibility. I think Andy was talking about perhaps facing the Mets tomorrow. By the way, I'm sure you noted that yesterday against the Mets, Tim Hudson made his first outing of the spring, pitched 2 very effective innings. He should be back by the 1st of May. Tolley hits one out to left center, and Gardner easing back, and that retires the side. But the Mets put up a 3 spot against Ivan Nova in the opening inning. Andres Torres back in the lineup for the first time in 2 weeks, getting the base hit to get it started. And 5 hits later, the Mets had a 3 spot and an early lead against the Yankees here in Port St. Lucie. Mike Pelfrey got off to a good start this afternoon, working a 1-2-3 opening inning. Andrew Jones leads off in the top of the second. Andrew very quietly had a very impressive year for the Yankees off the bench last season. A career that had been kind of left for dead. 190 at bats, he had 13 home runs and drove in 33 runs. So he was very productive in a limited role. The game plan, I think, is going to be for him to get most of the DH at bats against lefties, and for Raul Ibanez to serve for that in that role against righties. But as you said earlier, Ronnie, that DH spot, as Wright makes a pretty backhand pick of making like a highlight player and then throws out Andrew Jones. Nice cesta. 1 out.
Well, nice in-between hop, beautiful backhand, and then wisely, always as a first baseman, always appreciate those long hops.
Well, Andrew does not run well at this point in his career. And that gave Wright the time he needed for that bouncing throw to first.
A very nice play.
That's a play you saw often in the 70s, right? With all the ballparks with the artificial turf.
Yes.
So we were talking about the Yankees using the DH role, and you were talking about giving guys like Jeter and A-Rod days off. And the other reason that I think they'll do that is to get this guy into the lineup. Yeah. Eduardo Nunez, who I think is a very intriguing player if he got to play more.
He's a very good offensive player. I think the book's still out personally watching him play defensively. I think he struggles.
Oh, we saw that in that game at Citi Field last year, where the Yankees were fortunate to survive his miscue. 1-1 to Nunez. He's having a great spring, hitting .359. Francisco Cervelli on deck. And Pelfrey's 1-1. Just misses. We've had major league umpires here for most of the spring. Not today. We have a minor league crew on hand. Always interesting to watch the younger umpires and see how they handle it. That's Mark Lalo, the home plate umpire. DJ Rayburn, Jonathan Sapphire, and Sean Barber, the rest of the crew.
Let's just say there's a lot of hustling out there.
Well, it's like any young player.
That's right.
Playing in a big league spring training game. Except these guys don't wear number 97.
Well, Tony La Russa was here. I ran into Tony. He's working in the commissioner's office.
Is he wearing number 97?
He was in, he was in civvies.
Yeah, he looks great, by the way.
Taken the other way, and that's a base hit for Nunez. So the Yankees have their first base runner against Pelfrey. The Mets open their 2012 season Thursday afternoon. Tickets for the 6-game opening homestand against the Braves and Nationals at Citi Field start at $12. Call 718-507-TIXX or visit Mets.com now for your tickets. Braves are in Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. 3-day games.
That's right.
Then the Nats Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday afternoon. And then that first road trip goes to Philly and Atlanta. So the Mets are in division the first couple of weeks of the season.
As it should be. You know, you always open the season in division.
Open and close, it should be.
Right.
And I think for any team, there's always an imperative to get off to a good start. But for this team in particular, of which little is expected on the outside and which got off to such a horrendous start last year, it's even more important. The runner goes. Toley with a one-hop throw, and in safely is Nunez. Nunez stole 22 bases last year.
And stolen bases were a thing of the past, you thought, back in the 90s and the early 2000s when all the home runs were being hit. They're coming back now. Speed does kill and put a lot of pressure on pitchers.
Well, as home runs have come down, it's necessitated a return to the speed game.
Oh, thank goodness. Artificially produced home runs.
Amen.
No more high fructose corn syrup. Base running mistake by Nunez, and he's out at third. Now that's baseball 101. And Nunez made the mistake, and that's the second out.
Well, the rule is anything hit to the left of the shortstop, you can go. Anything to the right, you hold.
See, that brings up a happy memory. 2000 playoffs, Mets Giants.
Yes.
Armando Rios in the bottom of the 10th or the bottom of the 9th. Tries to go second and third, same play, gets thrown out. Mets win game 2 in San Francisco when they could have gone down 2 games to none.
That was a heck of a series, wasn't it? Jeez.
Well, you had Benny Agbayani hit the home run in the 13th inning.
Is that the Johnny Franco to Barry Bonds?
All third strike, right?
3-2 change.
That was game 2. After J.T. Snow hit the home run off Benitez to tie it in the 9th.
Yep.
And then Bobby Jones, the last game pitched maybe the best game in Mets history. One hitter in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Dwayne Wise, the batter. Wise playing center field. He had the perfect game-saving catch for Mark Burley a few years ago.
One of the best you'll ever see.
I really felt that year that Bobby Valentine should have walked away with the Manager of the Year award with that club that he had, with the outfield that he had. He should have been Manager of the Year, hands down.
Do we remember who was? I have no idea.
No.
It's one of those awards that I don't think anybody really pays any attention to.
Davey would never win Manager of the Year.
Right. Well, if you're expected to win, you never get Manager of the Year.
That's right.
Bill Hall would be next. Oh, Bill Hall.
Yes, I do remember. He changed positions every year when he was with the Brewers.
Remember he had that 35 home run season?
And he just went right downhill.
Was he the Red Sox for a while last year?
Houston, too.
Yeah.
Did he go to Houston?
Houston, San Francisco. Swing and a miss. Pelfrey coming upstairs with the off-speed pitch. Strikes out Wise. Second strikeout for Pelfrey, and the Mets have a 3-0 lead in the second. Ivan Nova back to the mound as we go to the bottom of the second. The Mets with a 3-0 lead, and we're thrilled to have a special guest with us in the booth. The defending World Series manager, now out of uniform, Tony Russa. Not too many guys get to retire on top, Tony. Congratulations.
Well, I wish I could take credit. I was going to leave win or lose, so it just turned out like a fairy tale.
And it really was last year, wasn't it? I mean, at what point did you even have an inkling that you guys were going to be able to win?
Well, one of the things that happened was all year long we had a lot of adversity. Our club had great guts, a lot of character. But then when it started getting away from us, our first concern was just have a winning season and try to finish high as we could. And we didn't really have a great expectation late August that we could make it all the way.
I remember we did that game on Sunday. I know you remember it, against the Mets, where you had a 4 or 5 run lead. And the Mets came back, 4-run lead, and the Mets came back. And when we left, we were thinking, boy, that might be the nail in the coffin for him. And it wasn't. You guys responded.
Well, believe me, that was actually it was a Thursday because that's right. Atlanta was off.
Right.
And had we won, we'd only been a game down with 6 to play, and it was 2. And we lost the next night, and they won, so we were down 3 with 5 to play, and it did look that way. And I remember going in the clubhouse afterwards. I'm telling you, we had really good people, and our guys were just, after working so hard, it looked like we had messed it up. And I'll tell you a really good story. Rafael Furcal, who was really instrumental in us playing well, he kicked the double play ball. Remember in the 9th inning?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
There would have been 2 outs and nobody on. He went out and scored 6. He called, Albert called me the next day. He says, you got to do something about Rafael because he's committed suicide. He's going to quit. I mean, he took it so hard. So I called, said, look, come to the ballpark. We'll talk. And he was despondent. He thought he had screwed it all up. And so we lost Friday. We win Saturday. They lose. Sunday, we're playing the Cubs. Yachty ties in the 8th inning for Cal's home run to win. They lost again, so now we're only a game down going. So redemption for him. But it was that kind of storybook happenings almost on a daily basis that, it's hard to perceive we could do it, but the guys just hung in so tough.
Tony, you decided to get out of the dugout. You said, of course, you had some goals, so you got more wins. You were within your grasp to be up there in the very top. What made you decide that this was it?
One thing we try to do a lot is we try to, as Ron would know, we personalize our coaching approach. The staff, equipment guys, trainers, everybody, manager. And the way you start that, you personalize yourself. And I knew in my heart that it was time to go. And if you just hang around, for a few extra wins to pass somebody, that's the reason you did it in the first place, and you'd be a fraud. So it was time to go. I thought it was really time to refresh that franchise. They got a great chance this year, and enough was enough.
And they really do. We've seen them this spring, and you think losing Pujols and now questions about Carpenter that it would be very hard to bounce back and have another big year. But you watch that team, and they look like they're going to be primed for a big season.
Well, I think the guy, Albert's a great, perfect player, in my opinion. But they're deep with good veterans, and they got some good young guys that are killers. And I think, losing our coaches like Patini and McKay, but the guy that's irreplaceable was Dave Duncan. And I think that's probably and I think Derek Lilliquist will do a nice job, but Dunk was so terrific. But they've got a lot there, and they've got a lot of character, and they had some good experience last year. I've been around a couple of times. They're very hungry to do it again. So I think they're going to have a great year.
Mike Matheny played for you, and I know you have a lot of respect for him, but how hard is it for a guy who's never managed before to step into that kind of situation?
Well, I think it depends on the kind of player in part. Catching is probably the best preparation you can have because you're in the defensive part of it, which is so important, and you're also a player, so he knows a lot about what happened on the offensive side. But
Murphy's got himself an extra base hit.
The type of player Mike was is really the important part. He's a real team leader, very conscientious, great competitor, terrific respect with his teammates. So I think once he gets the hang, I was always taught the biggest thing when you start managing is just literally pulling the trigger on the tough decisions. And once you do that for a while, you understand what it takes and you pull it, and I think Mike will be outstanding.
I think one of the players in that team that never really gets talked about, maybe because of Albert's presence the last few years, is just how good Molina gets. Every single year he gets better.
Well, Ron, I was just in Arizona because all those years here, I'd gotten away from that place, and several times we go to dinner with baseball people that I hadn't seen for a while, and I almost sounded like, I don't know, maybe I was fawning or his agent or whatever, but I can't tell you the pleasure it was to watch this guy play since 2005 as a catcher. He's the best I've ever seen. Against, for, whatever. And I'm not disrespecting a Hall of Famer like Carlton Fisk or anything. It's just he catches beautifully. He throws great. He thinks. He's tough as nails. His personality is right. You always make a point to tell a story, but so many times in the dugout, we'd have a tough moment, and I'd tell Dave, I said, man, I think we got to make a trip, and he'd just elbow me and says, just take a look. Yachty'd be calling time, and he'd walk out there. His instincts for the game are just impeccable, and Cardinals made a very, very smart move to tie him up for the next 5 years.
And he's also become a much better offensive player as his career's gone along.
You know, it's
got to be hard for a catcher.
Well, you should get paid twice.
Yeah.
And he did. You know, he in the minor leagues, he got his base hits. If you look at him, he got a nice stroke. I think as he's gotten older. But, you know, like I said, I got a million stories. But, you know, American League managers that I know well, when we play American League play like a Leland or a Social, they tell me, you know, there are a lot of tough outs in your club, but we fear Yachty Molina in an RBI situation as much as anybody. And he's that kind of tough out and competitor.
And Mets found that out the hard way a few years ago.
Yes, that's true.
That's one story I wasn't going to bring up.
You are now in the commissioner's office. What position are you holding there? What are your responsibilities?
I'm analyzing and evaluating, so I watch closely to see that Keith beat you to the booth today.
That's right.
And I can see you're as lazy a broadcaster as you were a pitcher.
That's right.
So just to get even, though, in all the years I managed, the best athlete and one of the smartest competitors we've ever had was Ron. He was great to watch, and he made some moves on that around that mound, I guess, because there were so many bullets.
That's right. I became a very good fielder there at the end. Had to.
Well, you know, Davey used to use the pinch run. You never did that, did you?
You did ask me once, though, to take fly balls. You said, you know, we're a little short. You might be the fifth outfielder or whatever.
No, fact is fact. I mean, Keith knows this. He's a great athlete.
Oh, no question. Well, Ronnie got a Gold Glove.
Absolutely, and he deserved it. So, I love kidding him because he's got a thick skin and he takes it. But he was very, very smart, very competitive, and just a great athlete.
David Wright works out a walk. This is not going well for Nova. His second walk.
So, Mets haven't missed a fastball all day.
No, they've been on him pretty good. Tony and I have an old connection. When I was 19 years old, I got called up to AAA in 1970. Was it 72 in Wichita?
73.
73.
I was a kid in the stands. You were my favorite player.
Yeah, right. Tony was playing for the Wichita Arrows, which was the Cubs, and he was playing first base. And I remember I was 19 years old, and Tony was always this mature man, and he had big forearms. I'm going, I'm never going to get to the big leagues. I was like a scrawny 180 pounds.
What'd you hit that year? 370?
Well, I got called up late, and I hit 333. Yeah. A mere bag of shells.
Shocker.
No, you always pick out guys, even minor leagues, and you do when you're coaching guys on the other side that are special, and you just keep walking to the plate and you saw base hit. And he had a great stroke, and then I found out later, when I started watching the other game more closely, how gifted you were defensively.
You had those ugly uniforms, remember? You had those blue uniforms? Wichita, they were awful.
Candy cane blue.
Oh.
It was like barber poles.
It was like a softball uniform. It was just horrid. And we had our road uniforms with the bumblebees, like the old Pirates. Remember, we were black with the yellow Oilers written across. It was terrible.
That's going to first base, and that's going to have a shave. I try to give my best dirty look, and it's very tough to look mean in that lollipop. We played like that too. You know, I remember that. Well, it was a couple years before I was in the Coach League, and Dave Duncan played in Tulsa. We had a day game, doubleheader, and then, you know, with the twilight there, you couldn't see anything, and he got cold cocked right in the helmet. They carried him off, took him to the hospital. He came back and played 7 games.
That's dunk.
That's dunk.
That was man. Hey, Tony, I wanted to ask you, because there's been so much news this past winter and then again yesterday. Pujols, Fielder, Votto getting these 9- and 10-year contracts. Just from a manager's standpoint, what kind of impact do contracts that long have on the ability to lead guys?
Well, it makes it harder, and that's been the biggest difference since I started playing. It's just this game is so much about human nature, and what you're doing with contracts of guaranteed money in years is you're messing with the survival instinct, and you got to be really careful who you pay like that for years. You know, from what I've seen of Joey Votto, he's very special. I know Albert's not to say he's perfect. You know, I was with the Tigers quite a bit this spring, and Prince is fitting in perfectly with that club. But normally, it does put a burden on the coaching staff, because if the guy can be a jerk and walk up to you and just say, look at my contract, I mean, you literally have to fight through it and just go face to face. You don't say, hey, I don't care what it says, just personalize your style of coaching. They can make it easy for you. They can make it really difficult.
And you've had players that have done that to you? Made it difficult for you?
Yeah, I've always had Duncan, Dave McKay. Twin sergeant at arms.
Okay, I hear you.
Dave Duncan, I'll tell you, he is the most mild-mannered, doesn't say a thing, and if there's a fight on the field, he's at the bottom of it. Always has been.
You know, his nickname when he played, because we played together, was a quiet assassin. But he's like, you know, a strong side type from Texas in San Diego, and that's part of his great charm as a pitching coach. The pitchers trust him because he's absolutely zero BS, and he's all for them. He doesn't care about one iota of publicity for himself.
Well, I know when I got traded over to the A's, I really needed a shot of confidence, and I got it from Duncan. He was just amazing. I tell the story on the air all the time. He said, remember that pitcher you were with the Mets? I said, yeah, that guy's gone. We need to get a new one. And it was, you know, it was honest. Right. It was kind of tough to take at the time, but it was right.
Right. Well, you're not going to get better if he's, you know, somebody strokes you, and the stroking isn't what you need. You need some honest quality, and then, you know, his expectation was always that somebody could be better if they were struggling, and obviously you responded. I remember, you guys probably don't know it, but, you know, he pitched 2 almost no-hitters against Toronto in 1992.
Yeah.
2 1-hitters, and the same guy broke him up twice.
Candy Maldonado. And every time I see Candy, because he does some radio, I think, for MLB, we have a laugh. We never say anything, but we just have a laugh when we see each other.
And if we got into Game 7, you were going to pitch it.
That's right. Against Morris.
Jack Morris.
After being in the fight, Tony, for 33 years, what's it like, you know, being up here and watching?
You know, I can see now why people are experts, but it's so easy up here. Well, you tell Terry when you saw him, I got him 4.
Okay, you guys. I will.
Tony, thanks so much for taking some time.
Enjoyed it, man.
It's been great having you.
You guys did a great job. Thanks.
A great Tony La Russa joining us here in the booth. Mets tack on a run, and they lead the Yankees 4-0 after 2. We'll bring you up to date on the latest news as the Mets gear up for their opening day matchup against the Braves on Daily News Live, presented by Citi, weekdays at 5 on SNY. Are they going to be on today? Does that depend how long we run?
Oh. Well, this game is Not moving that quickly so far.
Well, Ivan Nova is really struggling.
He's really, he's not getting his breaking ball over so well. His fastball's up.
Everything's up, and even that third strike call that he got looked like it was up. Mike Baxter takes over in center field, and you hope that's not bad news for Andres Torres coming out of the game after 2 innings. Now, he was on base twice. Remember, he got hit by a pitch in the last inning.
Maybe that's the precaution. Maybe get some ice if he was hit. Although he scored after that and was running fine. Scored on the bases.
Scored from first on a double.
Well, maybe we'll get word.
Or no word would be better.
Jay, you listening? Jay Horowitz?
Bill Hall leading off in the third for the Yankees. Hall who played last year with the Astros and the Giants. Now 6 years removed from that extraordinary year he had with the Brewers when he hit 35 home runs. And he's never really come close to that since.
Well, when he went to Houston and Houston gave him the shot, Gary, a couple years ago, you could just see he had lost all of his confidence. He was was clueless up there. When you start doubting and worrying and not focused on watching that ball out of the pitcher's hand and thinking positively, you're in a world of trouble.
And I also think, maybe Jason Bay's going through it also. When you put up those kind of power numbers, the expectation is that you're always supposed to hit the ball out of the ballpark. And when you start not hitting the ball out of the ballpark, you hear about it from everyone.
On 3-2, Pelfrey throws it by him. Good looking sinker for Mike. That's his third strikeout.
Well, take a look at Torres here. He's out of the game now, scoring on this double. See if we can pick anything up here. Looks pretty good right there. Didn't see any.
Free and easy, as they say about the pitchers. So we'll wait to hear word whether it was just that was the plan all along, to give him a couple of at-bats, or whether the calf is an issue or getting hit by the pitch. I mean, did we see exactly where the pitch hit him?
I thought it hit him in the leg area, the foot area. A little breaking ball, I think, from Nova.
So this is Doug Bernier. Slashes one into the seats, and we have a full house today. So there are not many empty seats to hit.
Guy caught it.
No, he didn't.
No way.
He's got it in his hand, his left hand. He caught it
on the fly.
Let's see. He got the ball. He caught it. That's good hands.
Any metacarpal issues?
Wow. It's like he can't remove the ball from his hand.
It's the claw. And Bernier down swinging. Back-to-back strikeouts for Pelfrey to start the third. Let's look at Torres getting hit.
He shortened up the bunt, and that breaking ball right down on the foot.
On the toe.
On the toe. Might be barking a little bit.
So we'll wait for word. 2 out and nobody on. Here's Brett Gardner, who flied to center his first time up. Meanwhile, Pelfrey, despite facing a Yankee team that's looking to work the count as they always do, hasn't walked a batter first time through the lineup and looking sharp as he did in his last start.
And he's had to sit, some long innings and going out and trying to put zeros up. It's all good for Mike today.
As is the case with most of the starting pitchers, this will be an abbreviated start for Pelfrey, and then he's scheduled to be followed by Jonathan Neese. So both starters facing an American League team rather than having either one of them face the Braves yesterday.
That's smart, by the way. You have to do that over here.
Guys, not sure whose decision it was, but Torres is fine. I just saw him in the clubhouse. He's walking around. He's fine. Maybe just because he played the whole game yesterday and he's running a lot. I'm not sure, but he is okay. I can tell you that.
It's good news.
Well done, Kev.
Because that was certainly the presumption, as we mentioned earlier, by playing him in this game today rather than putting something together on the minor league side for him, was that he would be ready for opening day, that he was 100%. And on base twice, scored 2 runs, and I guess that's enough of a day for him.
I must have missed that email. That's great that we're going to have Kevin in the clubhouse all year long. Be able to, give us some news when we need it. Fantastic. That is great.
That ends today, my friend.
You know, guys, before the game, Terry was at Torres' locker and was kind of laughing. He said, listen, don't kill yourself out there. I don't want to bowl in the gap, going to third, kind of making sure he doesn't take it to the next level. So maybe he was trying to keep him calm, so to speak.
Well, he'll be in the lineup tomorrow in Tampa for the last spring training game. Nice long hop for Tejada. Easily gets the speedy Gardner. So a very strong inning for Pelfrey. A couple of strikeouts and a ground ball. And the Mets maintain a 4-0 lead. Bottom of the third, the Mets with a 4-0 lead. The Mets celebrating their 50th anniversary this year, and Kevin Burkhardt standing by with one of the 62 Mets.
The original Al Jackson is here, the lefty. Al, you know, you've been pretty warm this spring. You've been bouncing around. I'm wondering if you're going to get in maybe the ninth, get an inning for the real thing starts here.
I don't think so. I hope they don't ever need me.
As Lucas Duda just stays hot, he's got a base hit for the Mets. You know, Al, when you think back, and Gary mentioned, you know, here it is, 50 years. And you think back to that year, 1962, and I know you're not thinking about a lot of wins, but what do you remember about that team? What is the one glaring thing that stands out when you think back to that inaugural year?
Well, the start of it was in 1962, and I lived in Houston. I just bought a home in Houston, and I was telling my wife or maybe the night before the draft, that I said, well, just be my luck, I'd go to New York, you know, really, because I'm living in Houston. I thought the job would be just better if you work at home,
sure,
you know. But it's the best thing that ever happened to me going to New York.
Why?
Oh, if you don't like New York, something's wrong with you. It was great for me, you know, really. I know I just cherished the opportunity to get to the big leagues and stay. You know.
You know, about a month ago, we had Jay Hook on. He was here. In fact, you guys coordinated with the first pitch before one of the games, and Jay won the first game in Mets history. And he said that spring training, yeah, we thought we were going to be a good team. Did you guys think you were going to have quite the squad that year?
Well, you know, I saw the club, and if it had been formed a few years earlier, it would have been a better ball club, you know. I think age had caught up with most of the guys, and I think this is probably why we played the way we did, you know, really. We gave it our best shot, but it just wasn't good enough.
Al, you had 8 wins that year, and 4 of them were shutouts. So is that pretty much what you had to do to get a win that season?
I think that it was, you know, really. I lost some really tough games, too, you know, really that year. But like I said, I cherished the opportunity to do so.
You know, Casey Stengel, we watched some of the old films of him as Hairston gives one a ride to the left. The park will hold it, and there's one down. As we talk to Al Jackson, Duda's tagging going to go to second, and he'll get there. You know, Al, Casey Stengel, we see all the old clips of him and how he kind of controlled the media with his humor and took a lot of the pressure off. What didn't we see, maybe behind the scenes with him, that you could tell us about Casey playing for him?
Well, I thought he was a genius. He really was. And, you know, I know he was an elderly man, and he probably forgotten more than anybody will ever know, you know, what I'm talking about. But what really got me, he would just talk about little left-handers, and he was really talking directly to me, but he wasn't in my face. You know, he'd be walking up and down the dugout, and he would say, if I was a little left-hander, I'd do this, I'd do that, and I'd do that. And I looked around, I was the only one there. You know? so I said, evidently he's talking to me. I remember the bunt play with a man at first and second, you know, and nobody out, so everybody's taught to bunt the ball down the third base line. And he's walking up and down the dugout saying, why don't you make this guy do what he's taught to do? What is he talking about? So after the game, I went in his office and I said, what are you talking about? And if I was a little left-hander, you know, get the guy to bunt the ball down the third base line. He said, it's made for you.
A little more offense for the Mets as Josh Tolley sends one to the gap. Duda will come home and score. The Mets continuing to hit against the Yanks today. Go ahead, Al.
I know, like he said, it's made for you. You know, if you get this guy to bunt the ball down the third base line, when you release the ball, you cross over and you start towards the third base line. You left-handed, it's an easy throw for you to throw to third. I said, wow. I went 5.5 years without a team sacrificing a man for second or third. That's how sharp he really was.
That's pretty good. You know, before we let you go, I got to ask you a little bit about the current guys. You're a special consultant with the team, so you help out the front office, you help out here in spring training. Let's talk about the two lefties that are on this major league staff, about Johan first. And what have you seen from him, lefty to lefty, and give the fans what you've seen from him in this camp?
Oh, he's such a professional guy, and such a great pitcher. You know, he's not a thrower, he's a pitcher. And you don't see many today, you know, that guys can really go out there and pitch without his best stuff. Now, that's what I consider a good pitcher. And this is where he is. You know, he can be half down and still win ball games.
Santana gets drilled here. Doesn't look like he likes it very much, fellas.
That was pretty interesting there, the glare by Tejada at Nova. Wonder if they had a little history, Al.
It was part of the game.
Yeah.
It's part of the game.
It didn't look like Ruben enjoyed it too much.
No, he didn't. No. You never know what's happened earlier or years back. You never know what happened between guys. Or he could have been just wild and hit him. You know. I'm a pitcher, so maybe that's why I lean towards that. And I've hit a few people myself. Not intentionally, in some way.
Covering it up, Al.
I don't think I'm doing a good job at it. You know?
Not at all. As Baxter bats now for the Mets. One more. How about Jonathan Nice? You talked about Johan. Nice has really had a good camp. You know, what do you like about him?
He is coming into his own. You know, he's been here a year or so, and now he's not a rookie anymore, and he sees what it takes to be the type of pitcher he like to be. And each day he's going towards that at all times. His control has gotten better. He's changed speeds well, and he's got good stuff. You know, I think he could really rise to be a great left-hander in the National League.
You know, one more. I lied. One more before we let you go. I want to get your take on, you know, Gary and the guys were talking about this, I think, the last game, about how the trend lately is to kind of take a successful reliever, put him in the starting rotation. Neftali Feliz in Texas is the latest example of that. What do you think about that? Do you think a guy that is established in the pen, do you like that transition? Tell me about that. You're a guy that pitched out of the pen later.
Well, it depends on what he's done earlier years before that. Maybe he was a starter.
Yeah.
You know, one of those things. And he's shown capabilities that he could last 5, 6, 7, 8 innings. You know, really, you don't basically have to go 9 anymore. So that depends on that individual. That can stand and go through inning after inning after inning every 4 or 5 days. You know.
Well, it's good to see you. Best of luck the rest of the time in this season with the team, okay?
All right. Thank you very much.
Great Al Jackson, guys. Let's go back up to you.
You know, I was looking at Al's numbers from 1962, and Kevin's interview with Al Jackson brought to you about Xerox Business of Baseball. Xerox ready for real business. Al won 8 games that year, which was second on the club behind Roger Craig, who won 10. He pitched 231 innings that year, had 12 complete games. which is a testament to the way the game was played then, as Baxter strikes out for the second out. But what really struck me is pitching at the Polo Grounds. And you've seen pictures of the Polo Grounds. It was about 257 feet down one line and about 255 feet down the other line. He only gave up 16 home runs that season. Wow. How's that even possible?
230 innings.
I mean, his mates in the rotation, Craig gave up 35 home runs, J-Hook gave up 31, and Jackson allowed only 16. Nova takes his exit. Yankees make a pitching change. David Phelps coming in. Mets battering Nova for 5 runs. We'll be right back. '25-year-old David Phelps on the mound for the Yankees in relief, facing Daniel Murphy, who drove in a run with a double his last time up.
Well, Phelps has a chance with DJ Mitchell and Adam Warner to have a chance to be in that, chance to be the long man out of that bullpen for the Yankees starter throughout his minor league career.
Missed a couple of months last year with shoulder problems, made 18 starts in AAA. The rest of the Yankee bullpen is pretty well set. We've got 3 substantial right-handers at the end of the game with Soriano, Robertson, and of course Rivera. They'll probably have one lefty in Boone Logan, but they might keep a second, your old friend Clay Rapata.
Well, they haven't been able to get Feliciano healthy after signing that big contract.
What did he sign, a 3-year deal?
I think so.
And he's yet to throw a pitch for it now in the second season. Two and two to Murphy. And he lops one down the left field line. Gardner over, and he makes the catch. Boy, he can really close crowds on a fly ball, can he? Mets add a run. RBI double for Josh Tolle. And it's 5-0 Mets after 3. Carlin and Adam Shine will debate the Mets opening day matchup against the Braves, plus bring you all the latest New York sports news on Loudmouths, presented by Caesars Atlantic City, every weekday at 6, only on SNY.
What did you find so amusing?
Just smile every time I think of Shine and Carlin. Don't you?
Of course.
These guys are fun. Nick Swisher grounded out his first time up. And there is Tim Burdack up in the Mets bullpen, 3 weeks removed from knee surgery, ready to pitch in his first big league Grapefruit League game since, and that is a great sign.
Well, it's amazing what arthroscopic surgery has done. You know, I had the cartilage surgery when I was 18, and I got a big zipper to my knee, and I was out 6 weeks. With arthroscopic surgery, they're back quick.
How come Jeremy Lin's going to be out for so long? I mean, if Tim Burdack at age 38 can come back in 3 weeks, I guess basketball's a little more complicated.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
because he's having the same surgery, right?
Burdack made 72 appearances last year with 37 innings. So
deep to left. Back goes Bay looking up, and Swisher's got an opposite field home run. Banked that off the light pole. So the Yankees are on the board, and Swisher goes the other way. His second home run of the spring, and it's 5-1.
No, the wind's been blowing out to left, but this ball's crushed.
Now Eric Chavez pops one up. Tejada flipping the glasses, and that's the first out of the inning. I think it's a trend. I think I see more and more players every year going back to the flip down sunglasses.
They're the best.
I think we've gotten a little bit away from, you know, the designer shades, and guys are realizing that this is the best way to play baseball.
What are you going to put on top of your hat, though?
A lot of it has to do with little contracts, too, you know. Now they're making so much money. Who needs a contract? A little side cash.
Well, why can't you have a company that makes the flip down start, you know, dispensing cash if that's the issue?
That was the coolest thing. I could not wait.
Yeah.
To get my hands on those flip downs. You never had them in high school. You never had them in Little League, of course. And
next thing, they'll be bringing back wide lapels and platform shoes.
Well, they used to have the big box, like the luggage box, on the bench, and you'd open it up, and everyone would have their own sunglasses in their little, you know, part of that case.
I still got my zip-up Python boot, platform boots.
Do you really?
Oh yeah, I never wear them, but I just have them in my closet.
What kind of height you get with those?
Maybe around 6'3".
Bring your buddy Clyde in here to show us some of his 70s fashion.
Good cut right there by Andrew. Oh.
That came down right on the back of Tolley's hand. The home plate umpire, Mark Lalo, giving him a moment to feel better. Two-two to Jones, and Andrew bounces one to short. Tejada's got the nice easy hop, and they're 2 out.
Well, I must say, and we've kind of been going all over the place here in this broadcast, and really the big focus of this game is Pelfrey, who we know now has had his first, 3 starts were miserable, and is now working on his second start, and it's back-to-back good starts, and that is positive for the Mets. They need this guy.
Well, I read a fascinating story a couple of days ago about Pelf and the fact that there was at least some conversation within the Mets brass that maybe it was time to cut bait with Mike. And that Terry Collins basically went to Mike and said, look, got some people in this organization who are not fans of yours. You better kick it into gear.
Yeah.
And Pelfrey, to his credit, has amped it up since then.
Well, it's one of those moments where, as a pitcher, you go, you know what, I'm not panicking. And the manager comes to you, you know what, maybe you should.
Well, a good kick in the rear, you know, it's a good thing.
Yep.
Don't be afraid, dude.
Honest assessment you can always take as a player. Always. Might hurt going down, but it'll make you a better player.
Well, sometimes, though, you need to know how to get from point A to point B. Yeah. And I think that's been the confusing part with Pelfrey. Not that he hasn't wanted to perform well. It's just he hasn't known how necessarily to get there.
Well, you know, I don't mind that right there. And I'm sure he's not. But, you know, Nunez is up. He's the shortstop. Tejada was drilled last inning. You know what? You're going to move your feet, too. I like that.
And Nunez also took him to right field for a hit his last time. This time he goes down swinging. So Pelfrey bounces back after the Swisher home run. That's his 5th strikeout. In the middle of the 4th, it's 5-1 Mets. David Wright leads off the last of the 4th for the Mets, who have a 5-1 lead. David has singled and walked, driven in a run, scored a run. Ivan Nova last year just 2 2/3, gave up 5 runs and 8 hits. David Phelps came on to get the final out in the 3rd and staying on to pitch the 4th. Phelps with a chance to make this Yankee team as the long man out of the bullpen. It's coming down to the last days. Hit hard, and David's got his 2nd hit of the game. Well, you've always said, Keith, it's important to get your stroke right in the couple of days before the season begins. And as a team today, the Mets are swinging the bats as well as we've seen all spring.
It's definitely a good sign. More importantly, because of all the lost time David's had this spring, to see him hit the ball down the right field line. It's first at bat, a double, and now pull a ball. It's all good. Make that man happy, Dave Hudgens.
So the Mets have their 9th hit. Here's Ike Davis, who drove in a run with the 1st inning sacrifice fly. Run down at a borderline call 3rd strike in the 2nd.
They've been throwing Ike a little bit lately, that little backdoor slider, backdoor curve. And don't think they're scouts. And for Ike, the best thing for him to do is when he starts the season is just file that. When they get you out a certain way, and he's been called out at one game where he struck out 3 times looking. They're all backdoor sliders. They're going to go into the season and try that, and you can land some serious high weeds. They'll never see you come out of those weeds.
David takes off. Ike fouls it off.
Pitchers tend to go the well a little bit too long.
Well, if you're Ike and they're throwing you that pitch early in the count, you want to lay off it, or you want to try to take it away?
Or it depends how you feel and how good is that breaking ball. If it's a lazy get me over one that you can time, it's all up to the individual how he feels. Now, if it's a Don Sutton curve, great curve ball, a Tommy Hansen curve, maybe you want to take it.
Strike 3 called, so Ike's caught looking again with
another backdoor slider.
Cutter.
I think this one had some plate. But you see they're set up outside. Now this has been a pattern we've been seeing.
I think there was a fastball there.
Maybe
four-seamer. Yeah, I think what's happened for Ike in spring training here, he's given up on that pitch. Like he sees it as a ball, gives up on it, and it's catching some of the plate.
Well, yeah, what I was going to ask you, Keith, is it's got to be very different if they're throwing that pitch with 2 strikes as opposed to what you're going to be doing earlier.
Right. It's not. I never felt that a backdoor slider is the pitch to hit first pitch. Only late in games in an RBI situation where a single's needed, not an extra base hit, to put a hurt on get your team back in the game or put them ahead or tie a ball game.
Jason Bay is 1 for 2.
In this game, familiarity does not breed contempt. You get more familiar with the pitcher, how they pitch you. That's a very good thing. And it's the one thing now with the more teams and the 3 divisions, it makes it more difficult for the hitters to kind of get used to pitchers and what they highlight the pitching.
Right runs, Cervelli's throw right on the money, and David's out. Will Hall handling that short hop throw, and Wright is out for the second out of the inning.
Well, Cervelli can throw. There's no question about that. He's very quick back there, quick footwork. And that is dead to rights.
A better play by Hall than the throw by Cervelli.
So now it's 1-2 to Bay. He single to left, and then was tagged out. Base running mistake. Was called out and strikes in the second.
I'll give you an example of that backdoor slider here. Les Lancaster, remember him?
Yes.
The one that the Cubs had the big year?
Yep.
He was a marginal pitcher, had a very good year that year, and learned to throw a backdoor slider. And he got me around 7 times in a row. And finally, and Wrigley, I got him up with the bases loaded late in the game. Tight game. And I said, that son of a gun is going to throw that backdoor slider. And he did first pitch. And I had a rocket to left field for 2 RBIs. He just went back to the well a little too long.
Was he ever heard from again?
Well, he had to change the program after that.
2-2. And that's it for a call, 3rd strike. So Phelps, after a leadoff base hit, strikes out Davis and Bay looking after 4-5-1.
I was about 5 years old. I walked into Shea Stadium to see the amazing
Keith, who'd you lend your boat to?
I wish.
Oh, Ronnie and I had you on that boat the other day.
Really? You think?
What was that sleep?
6 maybe? Oh,
it's huge. You don't want to know.
Crew of 12. John Neese comes out of the bullpen to make his final spring start.
It's nice hearing those kind words from Al Jackson about Jonathan Neese, wasn't it? That it's his time to shine.
DJ Mitchell getting ready in the Yankee bullpen. Francisco Cervelli will lead off for the Yankees in the 5th. Cervelli hit into a fielder's choice his first time up. So a nice outing for Mike Pelfrey in his final spring tune-up. As Cervelli lifts one to left, and Bay comes in. One away. So Pelfrey pitching well now. Neese has had a very good spring, but the guy who gets the ball on opening day is Johan Santana, and he spoke with Kevin Burkhardt a little bit earlier.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very excited. You know, can't wait to get the first one out of the way. That's for sure. You know, I think we worked so hard to be, you know, in this position right now, and I'm very happy. You know, that everything that we have done the last year and a half is paying off, and I think we still have a long way to go, but definitely it'll be an exciting moment for me.
Well, it's been a step-by-step approach from the day he had the surgery a year and a half ago for Santana to get to this point, and it's a real tribute to him and everybody who has helped with his rehab that he'll be taking the ball on Thursday afternoon. By the way, you can, as Wise strikes out, you can see and hear that interview in its entirety. Kevin's interview with Johan during our extravaganza of a pregame show on Thursday. It begins at 11:30 a.m. Thursday morning.
And then 1 o'clock game time?
1 o'clock.
2.5 hour. Super Bowl epic proportion.
It's 1.5 hours. I know we're still in spring training math.
We already turned the clock back. Or forward, I should say.
Today's game was at 2. Thursday will be at 1. Don't be late.
Math was never my forte.
Now, we have not been formally asked yet, but I'm assuming that we'll be asked to make an appearance on that extended extravaganza of a pregame.
I don't know if it can be the extravaganza if they're asking us, to be honest.
No. It's only for a few moments.
Okay.
Just to show off, you know, whatever new threads you might be wearing.
Oh, platform shoes.
Well, I'll break out my Thomas Jefferson jacket and Ben Franklin.
It's not going to be that cold.
I know, but it's going to get chilly.
Be in the 50s.
Yeah, but it'll get chilly in the afternoon. I may have to break it out.
Little flare to right field, and that's going to fall for a base hit for Bill Hall. Ball gets loose on the infield, but no advance. But a nice job by Tolley following Hall to first base, just in case he had any notion of making a move towards second.
Hustle by Josh. Take that big turn. Sometimes a right fielder can throw the ball behind you. We've seen that done before. Was it Bonifacio do it against the Mets last season?
I think you're right.
And I think he got Josh. In fact, so maybe that's why Josh does that. Follows the runner down first base.
Bonifacio is going to be playing center field every day, and I don't know how much you got to watch of the game last night when the Yankees played the Marlins, but that outfield is huge.
Some of the Yankees were quoted as saying that it played a little bit like Citi Field.
It looks like the ball carries well to left, particularly when the roof is open, but right and center are cavernous.
Odd angles in center field too. You need someone to cover a lot of ground in your center field position now.
You know, he's got great speed, Bonifacio.
The park looks beautiful.
Does it?
They got the lime green theme and the fish tanks behind home plate.
They've got the one little out in left center field, is it? That dolphin that is kind of a marlin jumping out of the water.
It's that whole home run machine that's going to be set off every time a Marlins hit a home run. They didn't use it during the exhibition games. They're saving it. I guess they open tomorrow night against the Cardinals. That's their official opener.
Their uniforms were horrid.
They've got a few different uniform combinations. Last night they were wearing the orange caps.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
Well, it's, you know, I think Jeffrey Lurie, who owns the Marlins, his background is as an art dealer.
That's right.
And I think in keeping with the fact that Miami is something of a garish place, there are a lot of garish colors in that ballpark, including the uniforms.
So their uniforms are more like the Van Gogh Arles period for him.
I just wonder how they're going to provide enough coloration to create any parking in that ballpark.
Are they bringing back the manatees? Do we know?
I don't know.
I hope.
I think it's something of a Marlin tradition. Bernier hits one right underneath Nice for a base hit. So back-to-back 2-out hits for the Yankee 8 and 9 hitters.
And I guess the fact now, I talked with Kevin Kearse, the clubhouse manager for the Mets. We're going to stay in 3 different hotels in Miami this year. They're trying out 3 hotels.
Oh, okay.
First one, we're going to be on South Beach.
Dangerous.
So
dangerous.
I'll bring my alarm clock. The next one, I think, will be the Ritz-Carlton, which would be interesting.
Is that like, is that on South Beach or downtown?
I think downtown.
Okay.
And I forget the third one.
Would you like to give out the phone numbers?
I don't drop room keys.
Here's Brett Gardner with 2 out and 2 on. And he takes a strike. Good cutter from Nice to start him off. Gardner's flied to center and grounded to short.
Well, it's going to have to go some because the hotel we used to stay at there was as nice as nice could be. Maybe one of the best on the road.
Now, I don't know which hotel we're staying in South Beach, but you know that there's an outlet of the Clevelander, which is a very famous hotel and restaurant in South Beach, inside the ballpark.
Right. Oh, really?
Out in left field.
They just redid the Clevelander on South Beach.
I stayed at the Clevelander a few times back on South Beach. Just started becoming popular, and which is that old, it's just a room.
I don't think we're staying at the Cleveland. No, it's just my guess.
So, crowd's a little young for us there.
Well, for us,
yeah, really young.
Not necessarily for the ball players.
I forgot they're young. That's right.
They're younger than we are, and getting younger all the time.
They have lots of photo shoots when the sun comes up at dawn. If you can get up at dawn, they're always shooting a photo shoot.
Or come in at dawn.
Stay up till dawn. Yeah.
So,
little flare, and Murphy goes back to grab it to retire the side. John Nice going a little Laredo that time to the left-hand hitter. We're halfway through. That's 5, Yankees 1. spring training, Mets catcher Josh Thole caught live BP wearing a GoPro camera attached to his equipment, providing us with an inside look from a major leaguer's point of view. To learn more about GoPro's products and how to capture your own sports memories, go on to GoPro.com. GoPro, the world's most versatile camera. Be a hero. GoPro. DJ Mitchell out of the bullpen for the Yankees. Another competitor for the long man in their bullpen. Lucas Duda already has a couple of hits in this game, and he takes a strike. Lucas twice has singled through the hole into right. He's driven in a run. He's scored a run. Now hitting .321 on the spring. You know, the Mets are going to Tampa tomorrow to play the Yankees. They'll get home, you know, late evening tomorrow night, and then play their opener at 1 o'clock on Thursday, which means that going home to a ballpark that's been reconfigured in the outfield. The center fielder Wise puts it away for the first out. Guys like Duda and Andres Torres, who will be playing as a Met for the first time, and Jason Bay, they're not going to have a chance really to test out those dimensions and get a feel for them before they play their opening day game.
You would hope that in your home ballpark you'd have the edge over the Bravos when they come in, but they'll all be starting at the same point.
I think, and I may be mistaken, but I think if the Mets had it to do all over again, they would have not ended spring training with this schedule.
Yeah.
I mean, it's great that they're playing the Yankees. They haven't played them in spring training since 1996, and I'm sure that in order to get the Yankees here, the Mets had to agree to go to Tampa.
Yeah.
But to shoehorn that game in on the day before opening day, particularly when you've got that issue of a reconfigured park, to not have a workout day at home, I think is something they would probably rethink if they had to do it all over again.
Well, as a player, former player, I always liked the workout day.
Right up against the stands and into the stands. Bernier can't quite grab it.
I always like the workout day. You get settled in, you fly out the day before, you get into your apartment or your condo or your home. You're relaxing and you go to the ballpark to take BP. It's a nice relaxing day.
And it also, I mean, this probably sounds funny to people at home, but to try on your uniform, sometimes, you know, it needs to be tinkered with a little bit before you start.
But that's changed a little bit, you know. Now it's all about stretching the pant legs as long as they possibly can.
That's right.
And taking the elastic out so the thing goes all the way over your foot. Well, when that became the rage. But, I mean, I see it all the time. The clubhouse guys taking pants and stretching them as much as they possibly can.
So almost like flares, right? Yeah. Over the shoes.
We used to call them when they first came in. I know George Hendrick wore down to his ankles, the pajama pants.
Broken back grounder. In comes Bernier. Quick toss gets Hairston for the second out.
The difference, though, George is, you know, we're slim fitting. I mean, they weren't like the baggy.
Now they're billowing.
Billowing, yes.
No more. The Yankees have the greatest billower in baseball.
That's right.
In their opening day lefty. They're like clown pants.
Well, you know, just the look at the schedule, to go back to it, Gary. I mean, the Yankees have an ideal situation. They play against the Mets tomorrow. They have an off day on Thursday, and then they open up in Tampa.
Well, look at Tolley's pants right there. I mean, I can't say it's attractive.
Hit hard and a base hit for Tolley. So Josh has his second hit of the game. And the Mets have their 10th of the afternoon.
When you came up, you always showed the stripes on your socks. Was that a mandate when you were in the minor leagues with the Cardinals? Did you have to?
No, it was not a mandate.
Okay.
But that was just always, I did the cuffs underneath, too, right? You folded them down. I always just thought with the stirrups, and the stirrups are a thing of the past now, too. But the sanitary sock with the stirrups. I always felt the sock as part of the uniform. But then again, I'm a Neanderthal.
I didn't hear anybody argue, did you?
I've been called much worse.
Not lately.
No.
Ruben Tejada batting ninth in the order is fly to right, and then was hit in the back by a pitch from Ivan Nova and clearly took exception to it. Ruben yesterday up at Disney hit his second home run of the spring, which is one more than he has in his major league career.
3-run bomb.
We have noted since the beginning of spring training that Ruben is a little thicker in the upper body. Did a lot of work in the offseason.
But that work is primarily to get him the endurance to play around 150 games, hopefully, at short.
Well, you certainly don't want him thinking about hitting home runs.
Correct.
This went down the line and foul. But, you know, if he learns to pick out a 2-0 pitch in a certain spot that he can pull, sure, that's not a bad thing. If he can, you know, hit 7 or 10 home runs over the course of the season.
Just have to be careful when you're a young player and hitting the ball at the ballpark is not what your game's about. You hit a couple and maybe that swing gets a little uppercut-like.
Corey Patterson is in.
There you go.
Tejada lines out. Inning over. We played 5 in Port St. Lucie. Mets up 5-1. Your source for all the latest Mets news as they gear up for opening day with insider info, exclusive interviews, and behind-the-scenes video. Mets blog presented by Verizon, featured on SNY.TV, your online home of all things New York sports. John Nee starts his second inning in relief. Nick Swisher, who homered as a left-hand batter to left field, now batting as a right-hand batter. Justin Turner in to play third base, giving David Wright the rest of the game off. David had a very productive day, 2 for 2 and a walk, drove in a run. Swisher, career-wise, has been a little better right-hand hitter than left. Average-wise, power's about the same for both sides.
Well, he is a guy that is built, at least from the left side of the plate, perfectly for Yankee Stadium.
Which makes you wonder, you mentioned he's a free agent at the end of this year. Will the Yankees value him more highly than another team would because of the way his swing comports with the ballpark?
Yeah, that's very.
In other words, would he be as valuable, say, to the Mets as he would be to the Yankees?
Very good point. Much worth in Philadelphia as opposed to being in Nationals Park.
Yeah.
Speaking of Jason Worth, I wish I could repeat on the air the quote he had yesterday about his season last year. The point he was making was that it would vanish quickly and be forgotten, but the words he used were priceless. Unfortunately, not appropriate for air.
All right.
But you might want to check out the quote. Read it. inside the Swisher. It's 2-2. And for Jason Worth, who's not a very quotable guy, it may have been the quote of the sprint.
Kind of a different kind of guy, isn't he?
Well, now he's got all that hair. He's like a modern day Wookiee.
That's right.
He actually looks like Robert Redford and Jeremiah Johnson.
There you go.
There you go. Belongs up on a mountain somewhere. But I think he'll probably have a much better offensive year.
They're going to probably add a pretty good bat after May. At the end of May, when probably Mr. Harper is going to come up, right?
Well, plus they'll have Adam LaRoche in the lineup this year. If they have a healthy LaRoche, if Mike Morse does what he did last year and Zimmerman's healthy, he's got plenty of protection in that lineup even before Harper comes. Swisher drives another one to the opposite field. He's got himself a gapper. Baxter surrounds it, and Swisher's in at second with a leadoff double. So he batted left-handed and homered to left. Now he bats right-handed and drives a double to right center.
Well, it was a hanging breaking ball right down the middle, went right with it.
And now Swisher's day will come to an end. We had 66 that went into run at
yes.
second base. You have a 66 on your roster because I'm missing one.
Let me see.
Oh, there you go. It's Gustavo Molina.
Of course. So the Mets
used to be a Met, yeah. I think he might have even played in an actual game or two for the Mets, didn't he?
He not of the Molina family catchers.
Yes, well, as I'm fond of saying, he is the Nick Hundley of the Molinas.
That's right.
One and one to Eric Chavez, and he bangs one up the middle, and that's a base hit. Molina lumbers to third. He'll stop there. And the Yankees have first and third and nobody out. So Nice has now given up 4 hits to the last 5 batters he's faced. And now Chavez will come out of the game, and we'll get a pinch runner for him. And that is Kyle Roller.
Only in spring training do you get pinch run for with someone that's slower than you. Happens all the time.
So now Andrew Jones, 0 for 2, robbed of a hit on a terrific play by David Wright his first time up. And the curveball outside for ball 1. So the conversation around John Nice this week has been about the possibility that the Mets will lock him up in a long-term deal that would cover his arbitration years and the first year of potential free agency. As Jones hits one up the middle, that's 3 straight hits. In to score is Molina, and now it's 5-2 Mets. Andrew Jones with an RBI single. And he will leave for a pinch runner. Justin Maxwell, former Washington National.
Who's had a great spring training, but it doesn't look like there's any room for him on them.
And he's out of options, which I think will have a lot of teams waiting for the waiver wire, because I think Maxwell is a guy that a lot of teams could use. But let's talk about the possibility of the Mets wrapping up Nice long term, which is something that a lot of teams have begun to do. The Mets did it a few years ago with Wright and Reyes when they were at about this point in their careers.
Well, I think you can equate it to the Texas Rangers did it with their left-handed pitcher, Derek Holland, tied him up for the same kind of years and contract that we've heard that the Mets and Jonathan are discussing. It's a gray area for me because I think Al Jackson was talking about it. It's human nature, to want, Tony La Russa was talking about it, to want your guys to be hungry. And it takes a certain personality to be as hungry even under a large contract.
It takes Nice, if they do sign the deal, into his arbitration years and 1 year into his free agency. So it does lock him out. Oh, got him.
close. Like Murphy almost got the tag down in time, but Roller got back.
So it's, I mean, Nice is a left-hander, and that is, you know, that's a commodity that's hard to find. And, you know, he's got tremendous potential, upside. I love his stuff. So, you know, the gamble is that they'll have him on the backside of that contract cheap.
Line caught by Murphy, throw to first, and getting back in time is Maxwell. I don't know if Murphy had a better shot at second base if he'd gone that way to double up the runner there.
He did, but see, his eyes are going to his left. He's got more vision over towards first base. You see Tejada's there for the double play, but
I think with Nice, I think there are a number of different issues. One is the fact that if it's at the dollar figures they're talking about, it could be a very economical way of tying him up. In other words, if you have an average annual value of about $5 million, you're avoiding the potential of an $8 or $10 million award in arbitration, or more than that for that first year of free agency. So I think, you know, you're trading what could be some cost savings for the ball club for some security for John. I think the second piece is that we all see that there's potential there for John to become an outstanding pitcher. And you know, his ERA was fairly high last year, but his peripheral numbers were very good. Home runs were low, strikeouts were high, walks were low. But there's another piece that I think makes it a little more questionable, and that is that John has never finished a big league season healthy and effective. 2 years ago, his performance fell off the table the last 9 or 10 starts because he probably wasn't in good enough shape. And then last year, we never got a chance to see how he would finish because he got hurt with about 5 weeks left in the season.
They have a lat pull, was an oblique, I think, at the end of the season. So that's where the gamble is.
So I think you don't know how he would fare over the course of 32 to 34 starts in a full season, only because you've never seen it. Shallow center, and it falls in for a base hit for Cervelli, and that'll load up the bases. So 4 hits in the inning now for the Yankees.
Now, for my opinion, from a player standpoint, Nice it looks like it's going to average out around $5 million a year. How can you say no? How can you say no to a guaranteed 5-year deal where, you know, I could get hurt, I can get in an automobile accident, someone can knock me over, anything can happen. I'm guaranteed and I'm set. So, you know, then the next 5 years, if you're successful, then after that 5-year contract's up, then I'm going to hit the big jackpot. It's kind of funny, Gary. My same thought process early in my career, back in the 70s, was I signed a 3-year deal. The Cardinals wanted to tie me up for 3 years. And there was no arbitration then. And it really didn't carry me through my option year. It was $40,000, $30,000, 40, and 50.
And Wise is hit in the back, and that'll force in a run.
Wow, it's a tough outing for Nice.
So after 4 hits in the inning, now a hit batsman. That brings home the second run of the inning and cuts the Mets' lead to 5-3. And we'll get our 5th pinch runner of the inning. Abraham Almonte will come in to replace Wise. J.R. Murphy ran for Cervelli. He's now at second base.
So you were saying you signed a 30, 40, 50?
I was looking for that. The 3-year was kind of nice to have that guaranteed. That just shows how times have changed.
But again, you were talking about security for a player and keeping that edge. But did you ever worry that you might lose your incentive because you were tied up?
No, definitely not. I never made it. I hadn't done it yet. I mean, I just kind of struggled a little bit, and that was that 76 year where I played the second half and I hit 300 after I sat most of the first half.
It's Jeff Stevens up in the Mets bullpen. Well, I think that the better clubs now are all doing this, tying up players at this point in their career, second, third year, to try and get some cost certainty and take arbitration out of the equation with players whom they value highly. Line to center. Baxter picks it off. Tagging and coming home is Maxwell. That's the third run of the inning, and now it's 5-4. So Bill Hall with a sacrifice fly. But I think at the end of the day, what it comes down to is that as a front office, as an organization, you have to be able to identify the players at a relatively early point in their career whom you feel that you can build your team with. As you know, the Rays did with Evan Longoria at a very early point in his career.
Price too, right?
Bernier hits one to shallow right. Long run in for Duda. That'll fall for a hit. Murphy heads home. He scores the tying run, and it's 5-5. A nightmare inning for John Neese. The fifth hit of the inning for the Yankees. A little flare. And Bernier drives home the tying run. And he will leave for a pinch run. I believe that's Zach Wilson running at first base. There he is. So that's 6 pinch runners in the inning. And now pinch hitter Chris Dickerson batting for Brett Gardner. And he takes wide for ball 1. Dickerson, the former Cincinnati Red. 9th man up in the inning. 4 runs have scored. So this final tune-up for Neese, who has had a tremendous spring, not going quite as well as he would have liked. And a fastball strike, 1-1. Hit hard in the base hit, and the Yankees take the lead. So Dickerson drives in a run. Almonte is in to score, and it's 6-5 Yankees. It's a 5-run inning against John Neese, and that's going to be all. So with Neese having already thrown 47 pitches in an inning and 2/3, Terry Collins will go to the bullpen. Jeff Stevens will come in as Neese takes his exit. We'll be right back. Stevens, and just like that, a long inning comes to an end. The Yankees score 5 and take a 6-5 lead as the Mets come up in the bottom of the 6th. Mike Baxter leads off for the Mets in the bottom of the 6th and takes a strike from DJ Mitchell. Changes for the Yankees. Kyle Roller is playing first base. Kelvin Castro is now at second. Ramiro Pena is now the shortstop. And Zach Wilson, to be pictured momentarily, is at third. Baxter gets tied up inside. It's 1-1. There's Wilson, the third baseman. Chris Dickerson now in left field. Abraham Almonte now in center, and Justin Maxwell in right. J.R. Murphy is the new catcher. So the Yankees have Murphy. So the Yankees have completely turned over their lineup. Had it been a regular season game, I believe it would have been a major league record 6-pitch runners in one inning, as the Yankees scored 5 runs to take the lead. Baxter took over in center field after Andres Torres started, got aboard a couple of times, then left the game after 2 innings. Everything A-OK. And we'll be checking in with Andres, who's with Kevin Burkhardt. 3-2 now to Baxter. In fact, let's check in right now. Kevin?
I figured I'd just speed up the process, Gary. Why not? We've been a little worried about you before. You came out early after running around like crazy. You're fine, though, right?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yesterday I played 9 innings, the minors, and today I run first to on in once, and then they told me, like, Andrew, that's it. Be ready for tomorrow.
Baxter goes to walk. The funny thing is, I was at your locker talking to you when Terry came by and said, listen, don't go crazy today. So was he making sure you didn't do anything nutty out there?
Yeah, Dave, because I went the other day to minor leagues, and he told me, Andres, they don't want me to steal, and I stole like 3. I went to steal 3 times, and they told me we don't want you to run today. Take it easy. But I feel pretty good, and that's a good sign. I'm excited about that.
So in other words, you don't really know how to go to second gear. It's all first gear for you.
Yeah, I've been learning how to go slow too. Sometimes you have to.
What are you most excited about opening day in a brand new place, playing for a new team?
Yeah, new team. We got a great group of guys here. I'll be honest with you. I like, everybody's humble. They treat you with a lot of respect, like a family, and that's big. I always said this, and I feel pretty confident. And like I said, we got a really good team.
We were just talking during the commercial there, and you just said, man, David Wright can hit, And when you play on a team that you only played a couple times a year, and you see guys now every day, do you get a different respect for, I don't know, pitchers or hitters or teammates to just realize, what they can do that maybe you didn't get a chance to see enough because you played in the NL West?
Yeah, you're right. I respect every people that play or even baseball, because I think it's a hard sport, and like in me, it took me a lot of time to become a major leaguer, and I always say respect. I admire too the game of the players, and it's unbelievable.
Andres, you get to a new park. Citi Field will have different fences this year too, a little new configuration. The guys were talking about it before. A little tough because you go to Tampa tomorrow and you'll get in late, and then you got the day game for Thursday. Is it important for you at all to go out there and in BP see some of the ricochets off the walls and kind of get a sense for what that center field is going to be like for you?
Yeah, you're right. Sometimes that's why there's going to be big, because I always say you need to know, the field, where you're going. And I know we got a big gas in Citi Field, but I feel good about that. I know I can cover ground, and I've been working. I work hard in off season, and like you say, I just want to take good jumps and try to play my defense.
Is there anything specific that you'll do, that first round of batting practice, or when you're out there shagging flies? Is there anything that you definitely want to see when you're out there Thursday before the game?
So yeah, sometimes you need to see. There's places, like when you want to see the ball, how it goes. Sometimes there's ball that, the wind it depends where the wind's going, and you want to learn how to read balls. There's fields like when I play with the Giants, the wind always was moving. I want to have a feel where the wind's going and how it is.
That's one thing, guys, about Andres coming from San Francisco. I know he doesn't have to worry about that wind coming off of Flushing Bay. Well, Andres, stay healthy. Best of luck on opening day and the rest of the season.
And thank you so much.
All right, guys, go back up to you.
Although there are some April days in Flushing.
That's right.
With the wind gusting through that place, it is sometimes felt like Candlestick Park. We'll see how the weather cooperates in April this year. We should have a nice day on Thursday, though.
Is it?
Yeah, in the 50s, sunny.
The mid to high 50s, actually, I thought. Isn't it?
You guys are so good about checking the weather in the future.
Well, I got to find out if I'm going to bring my fur coat or not. So I go to the website.
Justin Turner batting for the first time, took over for David Wright at third base, and there have been a lot of inside pitches in this game. Remember, Tejada got hit early. A couple of Yankees had to ducked for cover. Dwayne Wise got hit.
Andres Torres got hit.
Well, these teams will play again tomorrow, and then they'll meet 6 times during the regular season if there's anything to be ironed out. Hey, how about the whole Ubaldo Jimenez, Troy Tulowitzki dust up, and particularly Jim Tracy's comments in the aftermath?
Well, I think that Jimenez's comments in the
Baxter runs, and the throw by Murphy not in time, so Baxter has a stolen base.
In the offseason about the organization and how he felt like he was mistreated. Good ball to run on here, breaking ball in the dirt. And then you had comments from Tracy, and then you had comments from Tulowitzki and Carlos Gonzalez, against Jimenez, and that might have fueled that plunking. Because it's not that he hit Tulowitzki, but as soon as he hit him, he walked towards him like he wanted a confrontation.
Dropped his glove.
Yeah, yep. That's where the suspension comes.
Hey, dropping your gloves. I don't know if Ubaldo's a big hockey fan, but that's what the fighters do.
Yeah, but I don't know if you'd. Tulo's pretty tough.
Well, I mean, Jim Tracy, who managed Ubaldo when he was with the Rockies, said he lost all respect for him, said it was the most gutless thing he'd seen in 35 years in the game. I mean, that's a pretty strong comment. Turner bangs one up the middle. Baxter coming home. Here's the throw to the plate by Almonte, not in time, and the Mets tied up. Justin Turner, who excelled with RBI hits last year, hitting .350 with runners in scoring position, gets the Mets even again.
Well, he struggled this spring, but he's starting to get hit swing the bat a lot better the last week, and that's really all that matters. So Baxter steals a base here and gets the Mets back in the ballgame.
I think the bigger problem for Jimenez is finding his way again. I mean, he's completely lost his way. His ERA is over 10 in spring training. Wasn't exactly lights on fire when he was traded to Cleveland either.
What year was it? Was it 09?
09.
That he started out 15-1?
Right. And he had a terrible second half.
It's been a major drop-off since.
Flash in the pan.
Davis hits a double play ball right at Pena, and he handles it himself. 6-6-3 to retire the side. But the Mets get even on Turner's RBI hit. 6-6 after 6. Wilfredo Tovar takes over at second base for the Mets. Jeff Stevens, who threw one pitch to get the final out in the 6th, stays on for the 7th. Kyle Roller batting for the first time, hits it down to Ike Davis, and now Stevens has thrown 2 pitches and gotten 2 outs. That's efficiency. Last year, SNY's Play Ball Award was a huge success, helping 6 local youth baseball leagues pay for much-needed improvements. This season, it's your turn. Help your youth baseball or softball league with a $5,000 grant. Apply for the SNY Play Ball Award today at sny.tv/playball. Justin Maxwell will bat for the first time.
Maxwell hit a grand slam against the Mets to win a game.
Against K-Rod.
Left field line
2 years ago.
Bomb.
I liked the way Russa handled it when I mentioned Molina hitting the home run. He said, I wasn't going to bring that up. Unfortunately, we remember all that stuff, don't we?
We do.
Ramiro Pena on deck. Jeff Stevens pitched in the big leagues with the Cubs. Had a taste of it each of the last 3 years. Total of 37 big league innings. Signed with the Mets as a minor league free agent. And he'll be in Buffalo this year to provide a little insurance. Depth in your pitching is always important because very few staffs go through an entire season without a couple of bumps, whether it's ineffectiveness or injury. A walk to Maxwell and a 1-out base runner for the Yankees. Mets were very fortunate last year with their starting pitching until Nice suffered the injury in late August. They were pretty much intact all year. Dickey had the problem with the foot, but he really didn't miss any time. And everybody else was able to, Capuano and Pelfrey, they were able to go out there every start. Of course, they had Chris Young go down, but Dylan G came up and filled that spot for the rest of the year.
I forgot how durable Capuano was last year, right? That memorable game in August. It was against the Braves?
Yes, the Braves or the Brewers?
Maybe the Brewers.
Pitched a
one-hitter?
One-hitter.
What, 13 strikeouts, maybe?
13 strikeouts. But the Mets did not want to give Capuano more than a 1-year deal, and the Dodgers gave him 2. That's why he wound up walking. On the flip side, though, the Mets do have Chris Young back, and who knows exactly when he's going to be able to pitch, but we all know that Chris Young at his best is a tremendous commodity. Right. The question is, how many starts can you get out of him in any given season? Two out of Pena, the runner goes. It's a strike, and the throw to the wrong side of the bag. A stolen base for Maxwell. So the Yankees have their second stolen base of the game.
Nice footwork. Too good a jump. A perfect throw wouldn't have gotten him. So it's something we've seen that Josh improves on his defense, his hard work. His footwork is a lot better this spring. He's shown a lot better footwork.
2-1 from Stevens. That's a strike. By the way, Ronnie, you're right. It was the Braves. And it was August 26th, the 2-hit shutout for Capuano with 13 strikeouts. And you can argue, from an Atlanta standpoint, that's about when the nosedive began.
Right.
They were 10.5 up in late August. And the curveball struck him out. And Stevens with that overhand curveball against Pena for the second out.
Kind of interesting motion. Kind of rocked back and moves his shoulders. Big, good straight overhand curveball.
Got the big shoulder lift, the front shoulder lift, which is something I never liked. You hide the ball when you do this.
See that left arm goes very high, kind of rocks back, and that's how he gets that good break on that breaking ball.
Very awkward.
Yeah.
Well, it works for him.
It's almost like you're using your shoulders to help the body, help the ball break.
As a hitter with a pitcher that always hit the ball well, Ron, like Stevens here with the big shoulder lift, you really forced you to really focus your eye focus on the point of release, because you don't see the hand late, it's hidden by the body, so you've got to know about an area where that hand's going to appear, so you can focus right and pick that ball up out of his hand.
J.R. Murphy batting for the first time.
Thinking of a pitcher in our day who did that, Tom Niedenfuhr.
Yeah, I didn't like his motion. Don Sutton had the big shoulder lift, and he also had that great hook too. No Niedenfuhr, home run to Ozzie Smith, he was never the same.
In comes Bay, and he picks off the liner to end the inning. So a walk in, one left. Good inning for Jeff Stevens. 7th inning stretch time. Mets and Yanks tied at 6. By Time Warner Cable, enjoy all the things you love better. TV, internet, and home phone from Time Warner Cable. By Ford. And by GoPro, the world's most versatile camera. Be a hero. GoPro. Jason Bay leads off the home 7th in a 6-6 game. Bay is 1 for 3. Single to left in the first. Has twice taken call third strike since then. Facing DJ Mitchell. And he drives one to center, but right at Almonte. Almost misjudged it, but stays with it for the out.
We've seen a couple of line drives to center field. One that Baxter was fooled by, and then Almonte there.
In some ways, is it easier to play up north on a sunny day than it is down here in Florida?
Florida's always tough.
I mean, does the triple deck stadium help or hurt if you're an outfielder in terms of dealing with the conditions?
I'm not talking to outfielders here, kiddo.
I guess it's a rhetorical question. Duda hits one to center and an easy one for Almonte, 2 out. I mean, you both shagged fly balls in it, right?
Yeah, I was good at it at 5 o'clock. I don't know. That's a good question.
I think the more swirls you talk about here, the swirls because of the upper decks.
I don't know. I don't know whether it helps or hurts. I know, sometimes you get the backgrounds with the triple deck stadiums that are tough to pick the ball up, especially on the line drive.
All I know that old Candlestick Park was murderous, but even pop-ups.
The problem you have here in spring training is you got a lot of people in their Mets jersey, a lot of light color clothing, and that's hard to pick it up for you if you're an outfielder.
Well, I remember the story about the '63 World Series at Dodger Stadium when Joe Pepitone lost a ball in the white shirts trying to catch a throw at first base. That was a key play in that series.
Do you remember you look at the old Wrigley Field pictures, photos in the 60s and the 50s when they let the people sit in the center field bleachers with the white shirts?
Same in Fenway Park until they closed it. Used to be able to sit out in center field there also.
Preston pulling off that pitch.
Of course, that was back in the day when people wore white shirts and ties to ball strikes.
Well, I know that Fenway Park, it was impossible when they do like Jersey Day. Everyone would be in center field with the white Red Sox jersey.
Well, how about in Montreal with the yellow seats?
Yeah, I lost the ball in the yellow seats once. Hit me right in the shoulder. Never saw it.
Hairston hits one out to right. Maxwell grabs it. A 1-2-3 innings for DJ Mitchell, and we head for the 8th with the game still tied at 6. Mets with a new outfield alignment for the 8th inning. Mike Baxter moves from center to left. Last year's #1 draft pick Brandon Nimmo out in center field now, and Corey Vaughn will take over in right. Jeff Stevens has worked an inning and a third on the mound, has not given up a hit. He'll stay in there for the 8th inning. Abraham Almonte will lead off. First at bat for Almonte, and he takes low and away for ball 1. That was interesting watching Terry Collins there. Was that signaling to Joe Girardi we're only going to play 9 innings?
Yeah, I would think so.
Said, I mean, they both have to travel over to Tampa.
Yeah.
They got a noon game tomorrow. I don't think anybody wants to use any more pitching than they need to. So it would appear that has already been settled.
Wheels start turning when you see the tie score late in the game.
Well, especially after the misunderstanding that the Yankees and Red Sox went through earlier this spring, if you'll recall. Slow ground ball. Davis in to field it. Stevens to cover and avoided getting stepped on. That's what happened to R.A. Dickey the other day
on that double play. Kinder time now. There was a day when, not in the spring training game, of course, but during the regular season, you can't get in that habit. Someone will run you over.
Well, Stevens is coming out of the game anyway, but he did avoid the foot of Almonte. But Tim Burdack is going to come out of the bullpen. Burdack, first appearance after knee surgery. And we'll get to see whether Burdack is ready for the season to begin. When we come back, it's 6-6 in the 8th. Well, Tim Burdack takes the mound in a big league exhibition game for the first time since knee surgery 3 weeks ago, and he throws a strike to Kelvin Castro.
He was a big part of that bullpen last year. 72 appearances for the veteran left-hander.
Had a torn meniscus in his left knee, had that fixed up, and was off crutches within about 24 hours. On the elliptical and on the exercise bike, and was throwing a couple of days later, and he has made very fast progress, especially when you consider this is a 38-year-old guy.
Yep.
It's the miracles of modern medicine. And Castro goes down on 3 pitches. So a nice beginning for Burdack. That's the second out of the inning.
And maybe if he was a starting pitcher, he would not be able to come back so quickly. He's a guy that I said he made 72 appearances, but he only pitched 37 innings. He's a guy that comes in and faces one lefty.
Tell you what, if I were the opposing team, I think I'd bunt them.
Yeah.
In the Yankee bullpen is the famous switch pitcher, Pat Venditti.
The Mets had a guy that wanted to.
Greg Harris.
That's right, Greg Harris.
Not Greg W. Harris.
No.
Greg A. Harris. Who wound up with the Red Sox, right?
Yes.
Did he ever actually switch in a game, Greg Harris?
I don't think so. He would always experiment.
Of course, Lee Mazzilli was a switch thrower.
That's right. Mazzo.
And Dwight Gooden was a switch hitter. Until
whatever.
Davey disavowed him of that notion. I'm sorry, are you skeptical about that?
Please.
Zach Wilson goes around. It's 2-2.
Dwight just occasionally would just get bored with the game, so he'd make up, different games for him to play.
Well, he could hit.
He could hit.
Lifted out to left. Chasing Bay back to the edge of the warning track, and that retires the side. So a nice return for Burdack. He gets his 2 hitters out. We go to the bottom of the 8th. Mets and Yankees tied at 6. Santana makes his return to the mound as the Mets open the season against their NL rivals at Citi Field. Mets Braves presented by Burger King. Coverage begins Thursday at 11:30 a.m. only on SNY. Well, the switch pitcher from Creighton, Pat Venditti, takes over the pitching for the Yankees.
It's amazing. We saw him warm up from the left side. He's kind of a sidewinder from the left side. Switches his glove over. And then works on his right-handed game. That's pretty cool.
Well, he's got that special glove that is adaptable and can go on either hand. Now, in the minor leagues, it led to some problems as Francisco Pena leads off against Venditti, because if he comes up against a switch hitter, who gets to decide which side you pitch from?
Oh, okay.
Pena, right-handed or left-handed, has himself a base hit. Well, Francisco Pena, son of Tony, who has been well thought of in the Mets organization for a few years now as a catching prospect, has himself a base hit.
What was the decision finally? The hitter gets to choose?
I believe that the pitcher has to decide which side it's to start from, okay, and then he has to stay that way through the at-bat. Because it became a farce.
Yeah.
You know, he'd go one way, the hitter would go the other way. And
the most unusual pitcher I ever saw, now this wasn't in the major leagues, it was at the Cape Cod League, was a guy from Wisconsin that would throw traditional right-hander, and then every once in a while he would throw like a softball pitcher.
Really?
Quick pitch softball. It was wild. And he used to throw a drop and throw it about 80 miles an hour.
Like Eddie Feiner.
Yeah. That was the most unusual I'd ever saw. Problem was the underhand was better than the overhand.
Ruben Tejada's played the whole game at short. And he pops one foul. That'll go out of play. By the way, you know, there are times during the season when Keith takes a few moments during a broadcast to kind of collect his thoughts so that he can...
That's a great way to put it.
So that he can properly assess what's going on in front of him. I know that folks have noticed that Keith hasn't said anything for the last half inning. This is not one of those times. He is not collecting his thoughts. He's actually left to catch a flight.
He's left the building.
Well, Elvis has indeed left the building. Now, I noticed, this did not escape my view, that when Keith left, you moved into his seat.
Oh, yeah. I was just trying to give you a little more room, that's all.
Yeah. I'm just checking.
That's funny.
I didn't know whether, you know, you thought there might be some energy in the seat.
Well, yeah, maybe. Let me ask you a question. Now, you're flying out, right?
I am.
So you made a proper time for your flight? So you have the ability to do the entire game?
I wouldn't necessarily put it in those terms. I just say that I scheduled a later flight. Keith has travel requirements that are not necessarily my travel requirements.
All right. All right.
That's Brandon Pinder up in the bullpen for the Yankees. 2-2 to Tejada. Yeah, it's inside, ball 3. You know, Keith has to land on private airstrip.
Oh, that's right.
Somewhere. You know, with Secret Service guarding the runway.
Exactly. No security. Whisked right into the car, a waiting car.
Runner goes and it's fouled off. I mean, I can land at LaGuardia or JFK, Newark, Hartford. Doesn't matter.
That's right.
So.
I think he just wants to be at one of his favorite haunts by the end of dinner.
Well, he has tomorrow off.
That's right.
As do we. Now, I'm catching a flight later tonight. Taken high, it's ball 4. You, on the other hand,
yes,
you're doing it the long way.
I'm driving. I honestly enjoy the drive. You talked about Keith collecting his thoughts. I enjoy well, I won't say how long it takes me to get out. It gets me in trouble. But I enjoy the hours that I have to, just reflect on what we're going to have to do this year.
We got a pinch runner. Phil Evans will run for Tejada at first base. Well, I totally understand it because, you know, I love a little long distance driving myself. Just my advice would be slow down in South Carolina.
Well, I would say that you have a lot of nerve to try to tell me to slow down. I was following you home from Philadelphia once. You didn't know it. I was behind you, and the next thing I looked up, you were gone.
Well, I wasn't in South Carolina. Mike Baxter takes inside. It's 2-0. Baxter has struck out, walked, stole a base, scored a run, came in to replace Andres Torres, who played his first game since hurting his calf. Played 2 innings, got on base twice, scored 2 runs, and then took the rest of the day off. 6-6 game in the 8th, so the Yankees looking for the bunt, but Baxter not bunting, and he drives one deep down the right field line, heading toward the berm, and it's a foul ball. Just a little too much hook to that one from Baxter.
A little quick on that 2-0 pitch by Mike.
Well, I like the idea from Terry Collins of eschewing the bunt here. Yeah. He needs to see what Mike Baxter can do.
Well, it's interesting. He gave him one pitch to hit, the 2-0 count, and then 2-1. He had him bunting.
Well, you certainly don't want to see the bunt on 3-1.
You know, Mike's going to have some of these tough at bats this year, so you definitely want to see him lefty-lefty.
Venditti pitched right-handed to Pena and to Tejada, gave up a single and a walk. Now pitching left-handed against Baxter, and trying for a better result. 3-2 with nobody out. Runners do not go, and the breaking ball pulled foul. I mean, it doesn't matter which hand you throw it. You still have to get people out.
Yeah, you got to get the ball down, and he's hung a couple of breaking balls now, both on the right and the left side.
Then he pitched in the Eastern League last year at Trenton. Could be a double play. Castro with the flip, Pena with the turn, 4-6-3 double play. So 2 out as Pena moves to third. Joe Girardi heads out to the mound. Venditti gets his 2 outs, and now he'll exit. So we have a pitching change in the bottom of the 8th inning. 6-6. We'll be right back. Brandon Pinder is in to pitch for the Yankees. Drafted out of Long Beach State last summer. Wilfredo Tovar up for the first time for the Mets with the go-ahead run at third and 2 out. Tovar just 20 years old, out of Venezuela. And he jumps back, and it's 1-1. Tovar last year played at Savannah for the Sand Gnats.
I love that.
251. And he pops it up. Ramiro Pena, the shortstop, under it. And that retires the side. So the Mets get the first 2 men on. Can't score in the 8th. We head for the 9th. Still tied at 6. Tim Burdack goes back to the mound for the 9th inning after retiring the 2 batters he faced in the 8th. As the Yankees come up at the top of the 9th in a tie game.
You were saying before, Gary, that the Yankees have not played the Mets in spring training since '96. They haven't played here since '95, right?
Yep. There was a time when the Mets and Yankees would play a couple of games in New York before the season began. But that pretty much stopped once interleague play began. Interleague play began in '97, so there was less attraction to those spring training games, those preseason games, once the team started playing games every year that counted.
I played in a couple of those where they would call them the Mayor's Trophy game.
Right. Mayor's Trophy game actually began with games between the Yankees and Dodgers or Yankees and Giants back in the 50s, and then the tradition continued when the Mets came into being. And I think '83 was the last year they played the Mayor's Trophy game. I mean, they played that during the season, and in the early days of the Mets, it was a big deal. I mean, they would get 50,000 people there in whichever stadium they played in for, you know, an in-season exhibition game. But interest kind of faded over the years. Into shallow left center. And Baxter moves over to grab it. 1 away. Tonight, starting at 10:30, get continued coverage of today's Mets-Yankees game, plus interviews, highlights, and recaps of everything New York sports. Geico Sports Night tonight, starting at 10:30, only on SNY. So Burdack is done, facing 3 batters, retiring them all. A successful return to action for Tim Burdack. Justin Hampson will come out of the bullpen to try and get the final 2 outs in a 6-6 game in the 9th. We'll be right back. Justin Hampson comes on to try and get the final 2 outs here in the top of the ninth.
Pitched in the major leagues with the San Diego Padres and the Colorado Rockies.
Gustavo Molina up for the second time. Batting with 1 out and nobody on. The Yankees 6 runs, 10 hits. The Mets 6 runs and 12 hits. And Hampson gets ahead 1-2.
Where's Scranton? In Eastern PA?
Yeah. It's past Philly before Harrisburg. Okay. Somewhere between there. Right next to Wilkesburg. Because that's the Scranton Wilkesburg.
That's right. Like Minneapolis, St. Paul, right?
Just look for Dunder Mifflin.
Dunder Mifflin?
It's in Scranton. Two from Hampson. Hit toward the hole and a base hit. The Mets were shading toward the hole, and Molina still found its way through. So a 1-out single for Gustavo Molina, and Kyle Roller will bat for the second time. We get a pinch runner for Molina.
Well, if you're a Yankee and you came on this trip, you're playing.
Let's see. Got an 81 there, is that right? Jose Toussaint. Ball 1 to Roller. You know, we talked earlier in the broadcast about John Neese and the fact that the Mets are considering a 5-year deal for him. But it has struck me in the wake of the Joey Votto deal that appears to be coming down the pike. The Reds extending him for 10 years and $225 million, which will take Joey to when he's 40. He's 28 now. You now have this proliferation of these 9- and 10-year contracts that are carrying players into their late 30s, 40, or in Pujols' case, 42 years old. Baxter comes on to grab it. And you have to wonder what the economics of those are for those clubs. Are they factoring in the fact that, the last 3, 4, 5 years of those contracts you may get nothing out of that player? Or are they just not, do they just not care?
Well, they have to care. I don't know why. I know what the message you're trying to send. Joey Votto's a drafted player for the homegrown talent. You want to let your fan base know he's going to be around for about 12 years. I mean, especially, there's been a lot of players in the last, 10 years ago that played well into their 40s. But that is not the case. It's like it always was before. By the time you're 35, 36, 37, close to done.
Right. Hey, except for the exceptional player
or
here and there.
Right. Yeah.
Right. There aren't too many everyday players who are going to play into their 40s anymore. Toussaint runs. The throw by Pena, and he got him. Francisco Pena guns him down for the third out. Nicely done by the 20-year-old catcher. Mets will come up in the bottom of the ninth, trying to win it 9-6. Last of the 9th inning in a 6-6 game, in a game that will not go to extra innings. Justin Turner leads off against Brandon Pinder, and he takes a strike. Turner drove in the tying run in this game in the 6th with a base hit up the middle. That's put 2 men on in the 8th, but couldn't bring anybody around, and now trying to yank one out in their last home game of the spring. Late swing and a foul ball, and it's 0-2. Pinder came on to get the final out in the 8th. And now trying to forge a tie.
Pinder's interesting. He's a guy that struggled in college, did not pitch well, signed by the Yankees, and he's gotten better as a pro, throwing harder.
Strike 3 called, and Turner is out on strikes. And did not agree, but we've seen that slider on the outside corner called a strike often today.
Boy, that's a pretty good pitch.
And Joe Girardi's going to make another pitching change. He's got Mark Montgomery in the bullpen. And he's going to bring Montgomery in to try and get the final 2 outs. We'll take a break. It's 6-6 in the 9th. We'll be right back. Mark Montgomery will try and finish off this game for the Yankees.
You know, it's interesting that the Yankees have found lightning in a bottle with Dave Robertson, who's a shorter right-handed pitcher. And again, with Montgomery, who has they say, a major league caliber slider already.
Ike Davis has played the whole game, and he takes ball 1. A good enough, sharp enough slider that in a minor league game last year in the South Atlantic League, he had a 5 strikeout inning.
You saw the number of the catcher as he's running back to field those balls against the fence.
There's never been a 5 strikeout inning in the major leagues. There have been a number in the minor leagues because, you know, the catchers aren't quite as good and get that strikeout wild pitch. But to do it twice in an inning and then strike out 3 more to boot, it's pretty special. Montgomery out of Longwood University, where he started out as a shortstop. Davis hits one to deep center field. Back goes Almonte at the wall, and it's out of here. And that's how the Mets stay in Port St. Lucie ends this spring with a walk-off home run by Ike Davis in the bottom of the 9th. And the Mets beat the Yankees 7-6.
Well, 9 wins here in spring training for Terry Collins' squad. I saw something I've never seen before. The young pitcher for the Yankees was asking the umpire for a new ball. He didn't know what the situation was.
Maybe he just wanted it for a souvenir. Well, Ike Davis with his 3rd home run of the spring, and that was a bomb. Dead center field. And Ike sends the Mets on the road to Tampa with a victory.
Well, we've talked about it since he came to the major leagues. When he connects, I don't think anyone has any more power than Ike Davis. Very rarely do you see any baseball go over the center field wall here, and that one cleared it easily.
He was ready for a full-on celebration. That's right. Dropping the helmet off.
I'd like to see Ike do that about 25 to 30 times this year, wouldn't he?
I think every Met fan would. Well, the Mets took an early lead in this game. The Yankees came back with 5 runs off John Neese to take the lead. Justin Turner with the game-tying hit, and then Ike Davis with a walk-off home run as the Mets beat the Yankees 7-6. And oh, by the way, an outstanding effort by Mike Pelfrey in his final spring tune-up, going 4 solid innings, allowing just an opposite field home run to Nick Swisher. Well, our next broadcast will be opening day, Thursday, when the Mets take on the Braves. Our pregame coverage gets us started at 11:30 a.m. from Citi Field on Thursday. Now for Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling, Kevin Burkhardt, and our entire SNY crew, I'm Gary Cohen in Port St. Lucie. We'll see you opening day Thursday at Citi Field.